In a bombshell report from the New York Times, they admit not only did Joe Biden have all of these pardons signed by Autopen, but he actually wasn't even aware of some of them. Now, the funny thing is the headline is Biden says he approved of these. Considering their reporting that he didn't know about some of them and that the aides just took it upon themselves to go do this, well, it says that's it right there. How could these pardons be valid if the only one that actually appears to have been signed is the pardoning of Hunter Biden? Rand Paul has said that he is reissuing his criminal referral for Dr. Fauci. You've got the J6 committee. You've got Dr. Fauci. You've got Biden's family. All of those pardons in question, not to mention all of the other individuals, because there was a big pardon that all the presidents do. These are people who are in prison you probably never even heard of. All of them now in question. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we got some other really big stories. I don't know how else to say this because, guys, on this show, I often refrain and I argue as hard as possible that people are not committing treason. They say, oh, that Democrat did this or that lawyer committed treason. And I'm like, no, treason is adhering to the enemies of the United States. What most people are referring to with like Comey and these investigations is sedition, trying to undermine or overthrow the government. Treason is when you betray your country to foreign individuals, to enemies of the United States. Mayor Karen Bass has announced that she will be partnering with private individuals to give money to illegal immigrants that are here illegally and that are currently trying to evade federal law enforcement. Now, Trump has already declared an invasion. He has targeted these marijuana farms. There's concerns about child slave labor. They recovered, I think it might be either 14 or 20 child slaves working on these farms. Trump saying, we're going to send in law enforcement and shut this down. Strong likelihood that there is an overlap between these narco gangs, these cartels. And now we're hearing Karen Bass says she's going to give them cash, quite literally to the letter of the law. That is treason. And I don't say that lightly, but I don't have another word for it. When Donald Trump, the president of the United States, declares an invasion and says, these people are an invasive force on our country, we are going to start deporting these narco gangs, MS-13, et cetera. This is the first step over the line where a politician is providing funding and resources to individuals by which Trump has already said we are being invaded. So tell me what you think that means. But I'm gonna read the law to you, and I think this is the first step of the line of where we can actually say that is treasonous. This is an insane thing to be seeing, but they are pushing that line. We've also got more on the Epstein story because apparently Laura Trump says there are more Epstein documents they're going to release. So this whole story is nuts. Charlie Kirk put out a video saying, you know what, I'm going to trust my friends in government on this one. And everybody just went, huh? This is the Epstein story. What? But there's an interesting point to be made in all of this, which we'll get into. And it should be interesting nonetheless. Before we do, my friends, we got a great sponsor. It is Beam. Go to Shop Beam. That's BEAM.com. And pick up some of your Beam Dream. You got original cinnamon cocoa. You got brownie batter, sea salt, caramel, chocolate, peanut butter. Oh, man. Now, me personally, I've had the cinnamon cocoa and the brownie batter, and this stuff is incredible. But you're wondering, what is it? It helps you sleep. Helps you sleep better. I've been having great sleep. I took these. They gave us samples. Elaad was like, can I get some? I'm like, nope, I got it. It's mine. We're constantly pulled in 100 directions between the news, politics, work, family. For me, sleep was the first thing to suffer, and I can prove it. I have a sleep tracker. And there was a period where I was trying to figure out why I was performing poorly, mostly when I was skating, and I wasn't sleeping well. And so I reworked stuff. One of those things was adding Beam. James O'Keefe even shouted out while I was reading the ad read, and he was like, I actually bought this stuff to help me sleep. It works. It's incredible. So what I appreciate the most, it's not some gimmicky quick fix. Beam Dream uses a science-backed blend of magnesium, L-theanine, and other natural ingredients that help your body genuinely relax and recover without leaving you feeling groggy the next morning. It's also got zero added sugar, just 15 calories, and it's already improved over 18 million nights of sleep. If you've struggled with sleep or just want to feel better in the morning, I can't recommend it enough. Go to Beam. It's Shop, BEAM. It's made a real difference. Click the link in the description below and use promo code TIMPOOL for up to 35% off. The one thing I really want to add, which was huge for me, is the magnesium, because on days that I would exercise, I would wake up in the middle of the night with really bad leg cramps, and that just ruined my sleep. And you need REM sleep and you need deep sleep for testosterone and HGH production. So if your sleep is getting constantly interrupted, that's screwing you up. And it was. And so what I was told was I needed magnesium. When I got this, I was like, this is perfect. It adds all that, and my sleep has been perfect. So shout out to Beam for sponsoring the show. We do appreciate it. But wait, there's more. Check this out. DC Comedy Loft Live. Link in the description below. Doors are 2 p.m. 7/26/2025 in Washington, D.C. You're going to want to make this show. Okay? The 26th, we've got right now, you got me and Alex Stein. You got Matan. You guys know this guy? He's a funny guy. He's got a big YouTube channel. And then we got Gavin McInnes. Now, you may be saying, okay, that sounds like fun. I want to come to that. What I can't say is that we are still trying. The reason why we held off so long on confirming all this is because we are trying to get a prominent liberal who I think having him sit down and have this debate and discussion on is Trump still winning would be a sellout show the moment, not because the prominent liberal is someone you want to listen to, but because you want to see them argue with Gavin, me, and Matan and Alex, and it will be big. So because we're still working out the dates and the times, see if we can make it happen, I can't announce them. And so I don't want to get your hopes up. But I think the moment we are able to confirm this individual, if we do get them, it's going to sell out in a single day because it's going to be hilarious. It'll be hilarious. So pick up your tickets now while you still can. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, actually, Myron Gaines is not here. His flight got stranded on the tarmac because I think it was a lightning alert. And so when the lightning alert happens, they pull everyone off. And dude is just sitting in the plane. He was just sitting in the plane for hours. So he's on his way here now. And if he does get here, he will jump on and join the show. But Daniel Turner is also here.
I am here. It's great to be here. Daniel Turner, Power of the Future. Nice to be back. Thanks for having me. And I'm going to get Beam because I am married to a notorious bad sleeper. So I'm excited about this.
It's great. But here's, we often have guests on. And I ask, Lisa, did you book them at this time on purpose? And she's like, it was a coincidence. You actually testified on Autopen use.
I did, yeah.
Into Congress.
My organization, Power of the Future, was doing it on the environmental executive orders because obviously we fight environmental groups. And so I testified a couple of weeks ago on the Autopen use. And when we get into the conversation, I got a lot to say.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited.
Shane's hanging out.
I'm looking forward to talking about the Autopen. I just found out it was like a giant robot. Thought it was a DocuSign app. Everyone should look it up. But yeah, Shane Cashman here, host of Inverted World Live. I'll be leaving here around 9:30 tonight to go host my show at 10 o'clock on Rumble and YouTube. 10 o'clock to midnight. Phone lines will be open. We'll take your phone calls if you have any strange stories you want to share with us. And we'll be talking about a military jet that was hit by a UFO and declassified documents from 2023 that have just been released. Elaad.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. I am Elaad Eliyahu, White House correspondent and field reporter here at Timcast. Let's get into the news.
I just want to mention one quick thing, too, for those watching live on YouTube. They just launched that top fans feature, which apparently is the more you super chat and post, the more bonuses you get. And then it gives you a crown if you're into that kind of thing. I thought it was funny. I'm excited we got it. It looks cool. We'll see what happens. But, we also got our Rumble rants and our members-only exclusive Rumble uncensored show at 10 o'clock. Don't want to miss it. Let's jump into the news. We got this from the New York Times. Biden says he made the clemency decisions that were recorded with Autopen. Whew. I was worried there for a minute. I thought for a second that Biden didn't actually do it. Oh, let me actually scroll down more than halfway through the story to find this. Mr. Biden did not individually approve each name for the categorical pardons that applied to large numbers of people. He and aides confirmed. Rather, after extensive discussion with different possible criteria, he signed off on the standards he wanted to be used to determine which convicts would qualify for a reduction in sentence. Even after Mr. Biden made the decision, one former aide said, the Bureau of Prisons kept providing additional information about specific inmates, resulting in small changes to the list. Rather than ask Mr. Biden to keep signing revised versions, his staff waited and then ran the final version through the Autopen, which they saw as routine. So they buried that halfway down. But there's a lot more. There's one. Let me see if I can get this one. This one's massive. This is the actual smoking gun. Mr. Biden completed the list of high-profile clemency decisions over 2 meetings, the emails show. One on January 18th included Mr. Zients, I don't know is that how you pronounce it? Mr. Siskel, another aide, Bruce Reed. Another on the evening of January 19th, his final night as president, was with Mr. Siskel. They say the emails show that Mr. Biden added the preemptive pardons for his family at the January 19th meeting. They also suggest that he changed some of his thinking, but there's more. The emails show that an aide to Mr. Siskel sent a draft summary of Mr. Biden's decision at that meeting to an assistant to Mr. Zients, copying Mr. Siskel at 10:03 p.m. The assistant forwarded it to Mr. Reed and Mr. Zients, asking for their approval, and then sent a final version to Ms. Feldman, copying many meeting participants and aides at 10:28. 3 minutes later, Zients hit reply all and wrote, "I approve the use of the Autopen for the execution of all of the following pardons." That means between 10:03, 10:28, and then 3 minutes later, 10:31, there was no possible time for this staffer to go to Joe Biden and say, are these pardons confirmed? In fact, this guy who I've never heard of, Mr. Zients, approved pardons to the staff who used the Autopen. Void. They should all be void. I don't know how this is crazy. The president can't delegate away pardon powers, at least as far as I know.
Yeah, you know, Biden's asleep by 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Biden was definitely not awake at 10:48 p.m., 10:38.
Now, here's the big hammer. The lead of the story that should have been the first sentence. Mr. Biden granted Hunter Biden a full pardon in December 2024. It was the only clemency warrant in that period that Mr. Biden signed with his own hand.
Wow.
That's the lead story. Aides confirm Biden did not sign off on the individual pardons.
It's evil. I'm curious if he did the pardon with the Autopen for the judge who was getting kickbacks for cash for kids. You know about that story?
Yeah,
It's an insane story that guy got pardoned as well, but that's what they do at the end, just like Bill Clinton pardoning weather underground terrorists.
I mean, Trump did it.
Yeah, I know. I think it should be
Like
totally banned. Yeah.
We were like, what about Snowden or like Ross
Assange
or Assange?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and President Trump has said many times, whoever was controlling the Autopen, that's who the president was. So according to those emails back and forth, Mr. Zients was the acting president. Because if he has the authority to say, I approve this, let's whip out the Autopen, then you've approved the pardon. I was doing some quick math, and I had to Google this one. There are 84,000 seconds in a day. All right. So that was my starting point. 84,000 seconds in a day. On that one day, he pardoned 1,500 people. If he gave every one of those people 1 minute of time, that's 90,000 seconds. So, and you cannot physically spend an entire day looking through those. So they didn't even get 1 minute. So if I have to if I'm president, they're like, you should pardon Tim Pool. Let me see his file, right? Tim Pool deserves at least a minute. No, the American people deserve at least a minute of me as president reviewing whether or not I give Tim Pool a pardon. He didn't even get that. 1,500 people were just freaking run through the machine, and someone else just added their names to that. And that is such a violation of everything we hold sacred that you're absolutely right. They are all null and void. And now those who are null and void are also should return to jail. And if you were not in jail and you got one of the preemptive pardons, well, now you're up for criminal prosecution.
You know, I feel bad for there's at least some people who the pardons are probably not that big a deal. Maybe there's some non-violent offender and they were facing 10 years and Biden reduced it to time served after 6. And it's well, they committed a crime, they're bad, but this is whatever. And now it's you might have to go back.
Yeah.
The violent offenders that get pardons, I'm just send them back anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
But imagine finding out that your pardon, which was promised, is being voided because Joe Biden was sleeping.
Because Joe Biden didn't pardon you. Mr. Zients pardoned you.
There was no Joe Biden.
He doesn't have
There was no Joe Biden.
So just so we have a little bit more background, this Jeff Zients guy, he's actually Joe Biden's chief of staff. He was for 2 years, and he's held multiple different positions through the Obama and then earlier in the Joe Biden administration. The reason that it's important that you go through each individual case is because you don't actually know, there are details in each specific crime that lead to different things. One of the more outlandish people that was granted clemency was the infamous Kids for Cash judge, this guy named, who was it? Michael Conahan. And he was this guy in one of the states who was getting kickbacks from jail. So he was encouraged to send more kids to jail at the time. So he gave out these outrageous sentences. So things like this fall through the crack as a result of this. I think it's also fascinating how this is, for a Democrat, pretty much political malpractice. The Trump administration right now is struggling with a specific story. Let's not mention it this soon in the episode. But while the Trump administration
bring
is
it up.
struggling with that. This is the lead story for the New York Times. So it's like, Joe Biden, you're too dumb to keep your mouth shut for like the Democrats' sake, because now this is only red meat for the MAGA base, which Trump is struggling to, keep fully on his side. So this story is a perfect distraction for that, and it isn't going anywhere. This is a story that the president was talking about for a long time. And I also will mention, because I only today really learned what the Autopen literally was, because Shane mentioned something and told me to look it up. I thought it was DocuSign. I use DocuSign for all of my document signing needs, and it's like this automatic thing online where I just click one button and it writes my signature. No, this is like a physical contraption that moves with the strokes similar to
It's a little arm, and it moves.
It looks like Joe Biden.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up.
But like, why the timing is so fascinating. Obviously, the former president has an ego, and he was trying to defend his legacy right now. That's
Dude, can I buy this?
being slammed.
We should get one.
You can buy one, sure.
Yeah, it's like a 1970s CNC.
But this is this is a process crime, because this is kept in a room under lock and key, and people need to go in, and people need to get the paper, and there are a lot of bad actors in this process, and they are all to a certain extent culpable. And you can't say, well, I was just following orders. That doesn't fly anymore.
I just wanted to follow up on this Cash for Kids judge that I mentioned, Kids for Cash judge that I mentioned, because I do feel like it was significant. Conahan's inclusion sparked harsh blowback, him being included, being given clemency. Even Pennsylvania Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro criticized Biden for getting it absolutely wrong. He said it created a lot of pain here in North Pennsylvania. So this guy was convicted in 2011 of funneling juveniles to a for-profit detention center in exchange for more than $2 million in kickbacks. He was sentenced to more than 17 years in prison. Many people would say that's not enough. But the issue, again, with not reviewing closely is that scumbags like
Mr. Zietz,
America, I would like to introduce you to your president circa 2021-25. There you go.
We started investigating the Autopen stuff because there were so many climate executive orders.
Wait, it's drawing a butt. What is it drawing? Anyway, continue.
There were so many climate executive orders that just came out with a signature, and that we never saw the president talk about it. So probably the most egregious one was when Biden's Autopen said that we were banning the sale and the export of liquid natural gas. And so obviously in the fossil fuel world, it was like, whoa. The president's banning liquid natural gas? Yep, banned. Starting in January, it was banned. And if you remember, Mike Johnson, as Speaker of the House, had an interesting exchange. He said, I was talking to the president, and I asked him, why did you ban LNG? And he said, I didn't do that. And he was like, yeah, Mr. President, you did. And at the time, that was understood as, wow, Biden is in such bad shape, he doesn't even remember. But then we realized as an organization, we were like, oh, no, he didn't even know he did it. Like the crazy Greens in the White House were like, let's ban LNG. And they were like, damn, here's the Autopen. They put it through. So we came up with a whole series of executive orders on climate, but banning drilling in the Arctic, banning drilling in the outer continental shelf, that we were like, Biden never spoke about this in first person. Now, not everyone makes as big gestures as President Trump, right? He holds them up and everyone sees. But to have the president ban the sale of natural gas and never get asked about it, never talk about it, never get questions by the press, we were like, this guy doesn't know what the hell's happening.
So there was a lot of those happening quickly, and then you were like, we should look into this?
We found 8 in particular that are huge and that bankrupted people's companies, right? If you're selling natural gas and the White House announces it's now illegal to sell it, to export it, you're like, well, there goes the business. We mortgaged the house. Sorry, Mom, we're out of lives were ruined over this.
Terrible.
And all of our European allies bought Russian gas because we stopped selling American. Of course. So they were like, who can be the mediary for Russian natural gas? The Turks, which again, they're part of NATO. Turkey was like, yeah, we'll be the mediary. We'll buy it from Russia and we'll sell it to France and Germany and Italy. So it created hell.
Of course.
Well, let's just add this to the mix. Rand Paul saying, today I will reissue my criminal referral for Anthony Fauci to Trump DOJ. So I want to read this portion, which is, this is from the New York Times story. It says, at the January 19th meeting, which took place in the Yellow Oval Room of the White House residence, Mr. Biden kept his aides until nearly 10 p.m. to talk through such decisions, according to people familiar with the matter. The emails show that an aide to Mr. Siskel sent a draft of a summary to Mr. Biden's decisions at that meeting to an assistant to Mr. Zietz. So, like, this is convoluted. An aide to Mr. Siskel sent a draft of purportedly Mr. Biden's decisions to an assistant to Mr. Zietz. Okay? So these are two assistants talking to each other. Copying Mr. Siskel at 10:03. The assistant forwarded to Mr. Reed and Mr. Zients asking for their approval, and then sent a final version to Ms. Feldman. Feldman was the one who ran them through the Autopen. Copying many participants. 3 minutes later, Mr. Zients hit reply all and wrote, I approve the use of Autopen for the execution of all the following pardons. This is why Rand Paul is saying Fauci for jail. Not the full reason is because Fauci lied to Congress, but he's saying this is why the belief now is, and this is a senator saying this, the pardons are void.
Yeah. They have to
Lock
be
them
void.
up.
They have to be void because Joe Biden didn't pardon them. He pardoned the process. And that's not the same as saying, I pardon you, right? Like I will come up with a structure. That's not how, this is where it's going to go to the courts. Eventually, everything else goes to the damn courts. I assume this will get litigated to a certain point. But otherwise, what is the role of the president if it can be delegated to the staffers? Then we don't have a president. We have a figurehead. Right, and the staffers do everything.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I think Autopen is clearly unconstitutional and should be banned.
No, it should be totally fine for like happy 7th birthday to Peter and Marsha. Like that is allowed. Like Autopen to sign Merry Christmas.
Let's ban that too.
No.
But that's what it's supposed to be used for.
That's a dick move.
That's what it's supposed to be used
Imagine,
for.
I still think it's a dick move. So fine, I guess it's allowed. But could you imagine if it's like your birthday and then you get a letter and it's like a signature and you're like, oh, wow, thanks, Tim. And then someone comes and like, imagine then someone came to me and said, Tim, you know that card you sent to Daniel for his birthday? And I go, I didn't send him a card for his birthday. That's exactly what happened with Joe Biden. How many times did that happen?
And that's totally fine when you get 40,000 emails a day saying, can you send a letter to my mom for her birthday? Of course, President Trump or President Biden is not going to sign.
Like that means my Trump autograph
cards.
stuff's not real?
But a lot, that's why a real autograph is real. And that's the problem. Like if you auto-pen Willie Mays' signature, this baseball is worth nothing.
We take them all to Pawn Stars now to get these verified.
Yeah. So then it's an auto. I mean, there's validity, there's power in the signature, and that's why you can't forge it.
That actually is funny. Like now that there's this Autopen scandal, someone might go to Pawn Stars and be like, I have this photo of, Joe Biden with Richard Nixon signed by Joe Biden. I'm like,
Sorry.
Was it?
So
Was it really?
I think one of the problems that the Trump administration ran into with another story was over-promising and under-delivering. And the political cynic in me suggests that the same thing is going to be happening here. I don't suspect that anybody who actually received a pardon is going to have it withdrawn or whatnot. I don't actually think that Fauci is going to face justice in any, real way.
I hope you're wrong,
So, like,
Elaad.
while the optimist in me, I mean, no, I'm purely cynical. I don't think that this is actually going anywhere. And I feel like we're being, this is just a story to help calm the base down.
I hope you're
I know
wrong.
this is
I hope
coming
you're
from
wrong,
the
but I think
Times.
so.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying over the Epstein stuff?
I'm saying they overpromised and underdelivered for the Epstein stuff, and they could learn from that by not overpromising and underdelivering in the case here with the pardons.
Elaad, real quick. Can you name a story where the Republicans under promised and overperformed?
No, I mean, it's in the politician's nature to, but I mean, it's really biting the administration in a recent story, in the Epstein case story. And now I think it's going to bite them when none of this comes to fruition in the future, because again, I don't think Fauci's going to face any real justice.
Agreed. But I don't think the New York Times wrote this to appease the base of Trump. I do think there's a catastrophe, a crisis in the Epstein story, for which there's no way they make it go away. And it's really silly now. I think, what was it, Charlie Kirk was saying, what, did he talk to Trump? Is that what happened?
Let's put an allegedly in there.
Yeah.
Allegedly,
Talked to his
the
friends in the
president
White House.
gave him a phone call and was upset, especially with how much talk of Epstein was going on at the
know if he said Trump,
TPUSA
though.
summit.
We'll get into I don't want to go too hard on the Epstein stuff now, because we do have some stories to pull up there. The New York Times clearly wrote this story to cover up for Biden. That's why the headline of the story is Biden says he signed off on these pardons. Because when you actually go through it, the New York Times, this is what they do. They're front-loading the story. So your average person sees the headline, reads the first paragraph, and says, so Biden approved it. But if you actually read the whole way through, you're like, wait a minute. Now, just real quick, why would the New York Times write their story this way? Instead of just giving me a succinct one-paragraph intro, Republicans are investigating the pardons that Joe Biden issued because they're arguing that Autopen is illegitimate. Aides and staffers ran these pardons through Autopen without Joe Biden's approval. End of story. The New York Times wrote this to cover for Democrats, not to shift the narrative off of. I don't think the New York Times was like, let's collude to help Trump.
To turn it around on Trump at some point.
My
With his Autopen use,
Yeah.
If there was, I believe there probably was.
There was, but I think this term Trump has not used it
Not this term.
because he's signing everything with those big markers.
Except for birthday cards and Christmas cards. But my only hope on the Fauci thing is I think Senator Rand Paul has such personal animus for him that I think the Trump administration separately, you may be right, like they may overpromise and underdeliver. But I think Senator Rand Paul has such they had such nasty exchanges, and he's a doctor. He felt like he was questioned as a doctor. So I'm kind of hoping Rand Paul is like a pit bull with this and just goes after it nonstop.
I think he has every reason to try to get back into the good graces of the MAGA folk because he voted against the president's big, beautiful bill and has been getting a lot of heat from that. Maybe I just look at politics in a much more cynical way. I think this definitely would help him because he's posturing on an issue that he aligns with on the MAGA base. But this is the same guy who said he doesn't want to use the military on illegal immigrants to help ICE in any capacity. I think he's against mass migration and he's against the Trump agenda that he tried to pass in Congress.
But the Fauci thing is one of the biggest stories that we need major accountability for.
Sure.
Like
and if by accountability...
He shut down the country.
Donald
Trump
shut down he was the president.
Donald Trump's got other issues I want to investigate.
Trump shut down. Trump proposed the shutdown for 2 weeks. The states shut down each of their individual states. Some were open, some were closed.
And Fauci was the figurehead of the destruction.
Fauci was advising it, and Fauci was working on gain of function research, which he lied about to Congress, to the Senate. That's why Rand Paul's saying lock him up because he lied.
Yeah.
And Newsweek headline. They tried to be very nice when they said he was like, what do they say, untruthful comments made? It's like, sure.
And then NIH just changed the definition of gain of function, right? And they were like, well, we just changed it. So no, we weren't doing that. Right. Look at our new definition on our new website, which was released a couple hours ago before I testified. So
love how that works.
Yeah. just always just change the names of everything,
all of these guys need to be brought to testify in front of Congress.
Yes.
The chief of staff and then all the people who are involved in these emails should all be dragged in front of Congress, and all this should happen before the midterms, so the Republicans will still have the majority when it happens.
I'm wondering, one of the things too, especially, which we'll get into in a little bit more, but how Democrats are just so pro Epstein release now. And I'm like, guys, the challenge I see now, because like we mentioned Charlie Kirk saying I don't trust my friends on this one. It's like Democrats did not care at all under Biden. They were just not going to bring it up. Mm-hmm. And now that Trump promised to do it but isn't, they're acting like it's the biggest scandal ever.
Yeah.
I just don't believe them.
Of course not.
Well, I think the president put it succintly in one of his Truth Social posts where he said if there was anything damning related to MAGA or himself, the Biden and Merrick Garland would have, the Biden administration and Merrick Garland definitely would have released it. Why would they have held on to it? Anything relating to Trump, just because the president had some picture with Jeffrey Epstein is why I think Democrats are trying to advance it. I also think Democrats and leftists notice the fissure in MAGA as a result of this, and they will try to push and exploit this as much as they can. I think although there is some there to the Epstein story, I think every cynic, every person who's critical of the MAGA agenda will use it to try to, create more fissures and exploit that fissure.
Yeah, it's the same they do with Elon, right? As soon as they see something that is splitting the MAGA movement where people are taking sides, the Democrats pile on because they want to exacerbate that fissure. And so...
Well, Elon was disgusting about this. Elon was giving this more credence that the president allegedly had a business with Epstein that completely didn't exist. So it's like, even if somebody like Elon is willing to, throw mud on the president's name and slander him like that.
I got an idea. Can we find someone whose last name is Epstein? There was a guy on X.
A lot of them.
His name was Jeffrey R. Epstein, and someone quote tweeted him and said that R is holding up the weight of the world.
That's great.
It's like, if my last name was Epstein, because it's a common last name, I would create my top 10 newsworthy individuals of the week list, and that way I could tweet, here's who's on the Epstein list, and then just start putting people's names out. You can't sue you for defamation. You can
There's a famous Hollywood reporter, Kevin McCarthy, and when McCarthy became speaker, that was like the running joke that he'd be like, "Seriously, guys, wrong McCarthy." Like he's covering like Brad Pitt's newest movie, and he would say all this like "F you," like it was like, I'm not that Kevin McCarthy. So could do that with the Jeffrey Epstein. Put out a casting call for a Jeffrey Epstein. He can sit right there.
Well, hey, we'll make a website, epsteinslist.org.
There's a politician
and
in New York.
It'll be like to find local services to help you out.
Yeah.
Someone just ran in New York with an Epstein name.
I've met other Daniel Turners. So that name's kind of boring as hell.
There's a lot of them.
So yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. Let's jump to this next story from Newsweek. Los Angeles to give cash assistance to immigrants impacted by Trump raids. I love immigrants impacted. Who is Trump targeting in these raids? Are they just immigrants, or are they perhaps a subcategory of immigrant?
Giving cash to illegals that invaded our country.
Newsweek says Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass announced a new initiative to provide direct cash assistance to immigrants impacted by the Trump admin's ongoing immigration raids. The funds will be distributed as cash cards valued at a couple $100 each and is expected to become available in the next week. They say President Trump has vowed to carry out the largest mass deportation in U.S. history. The GOP's flagship immigration policy under Trump is causing people to avoid going to work and fears over workplace raids. California has become one of the key battleground states for immigration. So hold on there a minute. So the cash assistance is intended for families directly impacted by the raids. Mayor Bass highlighted the example of a family that faced potential eviction after one of its primary earners was detained by immigration authorities. Was this individual perhaps legally detained under a warrant of some sort, perhaps for being an illegal immigrant? The program will be funded through private donations rather than city funds. Immigrant rights organizations, including the Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights in Los Angeles, will handle the distribution of cash cards. According to the mayor's office, the city will coordinate efforts between donors and distribution partners, though specific eligibility criteria have not yet been announced. They're going to say Bass likened the initiative to Angelino Card's program during the pandemic. The cash cards announced coincided with a new executive order signed by Bass directing all city departments to strengthen training and policies ensuring compliance with LA's sanctuary city law. Okay. Now, y'all know, I pointed this out at the beginning of the show, we've had many people come on the show and say treason. They say Comey committed treason because he called Trump a Russian. That's not treason. Sedition is when you try to undermine, overthrow, or obstruct the government. So what we saw with Trump being falsely charged and the Russiagate conspiracies and the false impeachments, that's seditious conspiracy. Individuals of this country seeking to undermine this country's government. Treason is defined as this: whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason. I'll pull this up. Is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title but not less than $10,000 and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. This is codified in U.S. law. So let me just ask the basic question. We'll start here. Trump invokes 18th century law declaring invasion by gangs to speed mass deportations. Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a sweeping wartime authority that allows the president broader leeway on policy and executive action to speed up mass deportations of people, potentially pushing his promised crackdown. This is from March 15th. Trump has federalized the National Guard in California because of riots, and he sent in the Marines to protect federal buildings as they were conducting immigration raids in L.A. Recently, the Trump administration raided several marijuana farms. Let me pull this one up. This is very important. Minors, pot farms. I bet pot farm probably won't do it, but here we go from the BBC. Hey, the BBC is a source, right? Okay. Liberals are going to say it doesn't count. Minors among suspected illegal immigrants detained after clash at California farm. What kind of farm was it? It's a marijuana farm. You see, they keep omitting that. Now hold on. Let me just ask the panel a basic question. Do you think these minors, illegal immigrants, came to this country of their own volition?
No.
way.
Do you think they are working on a pot farm by choice?
No.
What do we call it when people are brought somewhere and then forced to work against their will?
Slaves.
And we call it trafficking. Mm-hmm. So what Trump and the CBP has likely uncovered, and I ask because I think it's unanimous, when children are brought here to work on farms against their will, we call that child trafficking and slavery. Karen Bass is providing funding to the individuals impacted by this. With that being said, Is it fair to say that she is adhering to our enemies and giving them aid and comfort within the United States?
Yes.
I think it's
Clearly.
you made a great deductive argument right there.
So I'm not going to look, when people hear the word treason, they imagine we've had these stories recently where like someone in the Air Force went to Russia and gave them classified documents or something. There was actually someone who worked for the director, the DIA, what is that department called?
Defense Intelligence Agency.
There you go. And he was coordinating with what he thought was a foreign ally of the United States, and he was providing them with classified information in exchange for potential citizenship, but they were not an enemy of the United States. So I don't think they even charged him with espionage. In this instance, we have a very interesting circumstance. I'm not going to pretend like this is somebody selling nuclear secrets to Russia, which is like the epitome of treason, or during a war going and joining, let's say right now, they went and started aiding and abetting ISIS or like ISIS-K or whatever it's called, and Hamas and Iran. That would be like, oh, wow, they're waging war against us, living war against us. I would say Karen Bass has put her foot just slightly over the line of where it would be legally defined as treason, because Donald Trump has already said these narco gangs and cartels are invading our country, many at the behest of foreign adversaries, and we have to deport them. We know, or I should say it is reasonable to conclude, at least Tren de Aragua, that makes a lot of sense, that Venezuela released prisoners from their prisons and sent them out saying, go disrupt other places, go to the United States, why don't you? That's Trump's argument. Right now you have this scenario. Regardless of what you think of Trump, the federal government has asserted there is an invasion on the southern border. Blanket statement. Maybe not a legal one, I don't know. There is a alien enemy invasion under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act that, yes, Tren de Aragua is an invasive force. Now, we don't know exactly who is running these pot farms, but the BBC is even reporting children were working on these farms. I think it's fair to say these people who are not Americans are an enemy of this country, because I don't think anyone in this country is going to argue that it's lawful to have child slaves. Karen Bass providing, aiding, and abetting these individuals is adhering to our enemies.
300,000 kids went missing over the border while Biden was, in charge. I'm putting in quotes for those listening. I'm sure some of those kids are wound up on that farm and farms like it. They are. This is like a slow death of a state that she is accelerating with her, like Tim was saying, the foot on the pedal. But I think she helped burn down that state. She was just gone. Totally mismanaged the fires in LA.
So the reason I bring this up is because, and again, I want to stress, I always tell people it's not treason. You can't say that. Don't say it's treason. I imagine the Barbary Wars. Jefferson, I believe it was negotiating with with North Africa and saying like, stop your people from doing this. And they basically said, you're infidels. We can do what we want. And he said, okay, we're making the Marines and we're going to go in and we're going to crush you. The Barbary pirates are pirates. They are not necessarily of a government. That's what a pirate is. It's a privateer. If there were, say, during the Barbary Wars, if you went and aided a pirate vessel attacking the U.S. Marines, that was legal treason. Treason doesn't have to be a nation state. It is just the declared enemy of the United States. So this is, admittedly, I would call it being on the line, because I'm sure some might argue, no. She's not directly aiding Tren de Aragua. She's indirectly aiding. She's indirectly aiding narco gangs and Tren de Aragua with the actions she's taking. We don't know for sure that she is, but it seems highly likely that she is. In the event that the Trump administration discovers anybody who received one of these cards is MS-13, Tren de Aragua, or Sinaloa, or any of these other cartels, that there is objective, done, red line treason. So I try to be careful. The question then becomes, is there political will for Donald Trump or anyone in government to actually go against these sanctuary policies? I think the answer is no. The question then becomes, to be completely honest, is enforcing sanctuary policy in general just treason? And I think the only way this is going to stop is when you get someone at the bare minimum argues for sedition.
There's no doubt these cards are going to end up in the hands of the narco traffickers, because the people who are working on these farms are indebted to them for getting them across the border. The 15-year-old girls that are working on these farms are there to pay off the debt of someone else who owes the traffickers. So if you are the nicest of people and you got the $500 card from Karen Bass's organization, ultimately the narco trafficker is going to be like, I want the card.
We have a hard question that this country is facing right now. BBC report. Federal officials said a protester fired what looked like a pistol at federal agents. Now, we were live when that broke. We covered that story. It was the third time in 1 week extremist factions were opening fire on federal law enforcement. But if we were to say outright, what are the circumstances right now the U.S. is facing? We've got narco gangs. There's many of them in the United States. Most people are familiar with Tren de Aragua and MS-13, for instance. They trade drugs, they traffic people, they smuggle. You've got the cartels. The cartels are much, much more serious, right? The narco gangs might be involved in one or two political killings, but they're largely just gang killings, trafficking. The cartels actively are killing wave after wave of politicians in Mexico, and they do operate on our southern border smuggling drugs. We have a crisis in this country with these elements. We are trying to stop them. The American people voted for Donald Trump to stop them. Sanctuary cities, Democrat politicians are seeking to abet all these illegal immigrants. At what point now, with 3 ambushes, I shouldn't say that there was an ambush, but 2 ambushes on cops, 2 cops shot. And now this. At what point is Trump going to have to say, there is an enemy in the United States attacking us, seeking to kill our law enforcement in violation of the voter base who voted in a Republican majority in the House, Senate, presidency, and, because of Trump's first term, the Supreme Court. Clearly, immigration is something people want done. At some point, the question is going to have to be posed, do we actually treat this as enemies in the United States attacking us?
Yes, he needs to be more aggressive. I think we only have 100,000 deportations so far. Barack had 2.5 million.
But let's compare those. Barack, those are turnarounds. The Obama deportations was largely captured at the border and pushed back.
Right.
And never before had we seen the kind of raids that Trump is doing, where he's going into Los Angeles.
I think he did use ICE raids, though. Obama did definitely use ICE raids.
They weren't like Trump's.
Not like this. Well, they need to be more aggressive. And I don't think we should wait for something to pop off, like someone to get hurt again, for him to be like, okay, now's the time.
This is the question that I brought up last week, and I'll ask you, Shane. What do you think would happen if Abraham Lincoln did not react to the secession of 7 states? Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, well, exactly. Along those same lines, the congressman that happened yesterday, Carbajal, I don't know if you saw this. I saw it earlier on the news. Congressman Carbajal was trying to stop an ICE deportation, and he asked the ICE official for his card, and he gave it to him. And he took his business card and showed it to the media on camera, read out the guy's name, read out his information. And people are saying, how do you not arrest Congressman Carbajal? Like, you doxed an ICE official, and you said, I'm a member of Congress. I want your card. Here's my card. Now I'm going to share it with the American people.
Well, the challenge there is...
This is insanity.
Scummy, but not illegal.
Right, scummy, but not illegal. The reason I brought up the Lincoln thing is, I think it's fair to say, so the history is, Abraham Lincoln wins the election. Immediately 7 states declare secession. Just 7. And Abraham Lincoln's not even president yet. He gets in and says, we will not let the Union break apart. And so you get first the Battle of Fort Sumter. The Union refuses to pull their troops out of Fort Sumter in South Carolina. So that was, we call it the start, but the only person that died, I think, was an accident. Then you get the first Battle of Bull Run, where the South mounts forces in Virginia, and the Union loses. At any point, Abraham Lincoln could have said, I am not engaging. And if Abraham Lincoln said, well, I guess they seceded, you know what would happen? No Civil War. Because the South wasn't invading the North. The question then is right now, will Donald Trump, the question is, will this escalate? I'm sorry, like, they're already shooting at cops. I don't know. So we're there.
It's escalating.
Will Trump
It is escalating.
Declare an insurrection and actually start shutting down these sanctuary cities? If he doesn't, I think they win. If he does, I think he wins, and he would be Lincoln-esque.
Yeah.
I did hear him the other day say, if you get in the way of ICE vehicles making arrests, I'm instructing ICE agents to move in and arrest protesters that do so.
Indeed, but that's just saying,
first step in the right direction. I mean,
sure.
They haven't been.
If you violate the law, we'll arrest you is a bare minimum.
Yeah.
The question is the degree of charges. And Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus without the authority of Congress. That's unconstitutional. Retroactively, they claimed he was allowed to do it, setting a precedent that hypothetically in a wartime, this is the precedent Lincoln set that everyone cheered for.
Yeah.
Trump could suspend habeas corpus and then say, all that needs to happen is Congress at any point just agree. I can do it when I feel like it. That's what Lincoln did. And that's the point he was making before about illegal immigration. I think, Abraham Lincoln arrested the Maryland legislature, or I'm sorry, a third of them.
Yeah.
These are huge unconstitutional moves made by a president who decided he was going to send the troops down and maintain the integrity of the Union, which we celebrate him for.
So
I don't think he was a tyrant.
Still Democrats.
I think he was a tyrant.
He doesn't need to go
Always
that
Democrats.
far yet. I don't think
He
the
wanted
president-
war. Him and
I think the
Sherman
president
wanted war.
now, he needs Pam Bondi to go hard after the 10 protesters who were involved in the attack in one ICE facility. I believe the Korean man who shot one ICE officer, they have he's wanted right now and they're on the lookout for him. The president just finished passing the one big beautiful bill that is going to increase funding to ICE. But having said all that, I've been monitoring my background's in field reporting, and I suspect that this will be the next big leftist liberal movement in our country. I've been monitoring all the lefty pages on Instagram, Twitter, and throughout social media. They call for violence against ICE cops regularly, and as I continue to monitor them, they're becoming more and more well organized. What does that mean? That means they are going to organize and call for more protests as ICE workplace enforcements are happening. As workplace raids are happening, they're looking to flood the zone with different protesters and rioters. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot more of moving forward.
Yeah, and I think every couple of years the left needs their organizing principle, whether it's Occupy Wall Street, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether they always have to have something to galvanize them. And this could be the new one, right? Headed into the midterms, headed into, it's summer. I'm surprised it's not happening now. But the crazy left, the Antifa faction of the left, they need something to rally around.
I'm just happy Israel-Palestine season's over. Switch, it's officially
I agree.
illegal immigrant season.
And you have to thank for that.
But the poor climate.
Epstein? I was going to say, no, the ICE agents who are emboldened, that's the number one thing on the Donald Trump agenda has been mass deportations, and they're delivering on what they
But
promised.
imagine if you were a true climate believer. Like, what about the climate change people? No one cares.
They're gone.
No one goes to their.
Greta cares
I
about
know.
Palestine, not about climate change.
Even Greta moved
Let's,
on to kill Israel. I know she left climate.
Let's jump to this story from the Post-Millennial. We've got this one from the Post-Millennial. Illegal immigrants can be deported to third-party countries with as little as 6-hour notice, ICE memo says. A new policy memo issued by ICE Director Todd Lyons has stated U.S. immigration officials can now deport illegal immigrants to countries other than their own with minimal advance notice. I say let's go.
Do they warn the other country?
Do they what?
Do they warn the other country?
Well,
Or
I mean,
just
we
illegal?
talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like South Sudan's got the lowest GDP in the world with it's like $390 per year.
Right.
So these illegal immigrants, they're going to boost the GDP of South Sudan.
They need it.
Well, I think the situation here is that many countries don't have agreements in place for us to deport their illegals back to their country. So, for example, like Venezuela won't accept the illegal Venezuelans that we try to send back there. So I think the idea is instead of having to keep them here instead, because we can't send them back to Venezuela, we send them to a third-party country to not let them linger here in our country.
I agree. The question ultimately now is, in the previous segment, we were talking about Karen Bass giving money to illegal immigrants who are targets of federal law enforcement, which is aiding. Like, it's one thing to aid and abet a criminal, someone robbed a bank, but these are not citizens. These are people that Trump is saying is invading us. And the question is, if this money finds its way to Tren de Aragua, to MS-13, to Sinaloa, to whoever else, this is treason. She's aiding and abetting. The question then becomes, does Trump need to go full Abraham Lincoln, or will the Democrat resistance be so weak? Albeit it is nuts, right? They've already shot 2 cops. There's been 3 shootings against law enforcement, but still, they've not organized any meaningful way. So does Trump need to escalate the law enforcement beyond what he's doing now? My argument would be a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like he needs to declare a war and send in the Marines to take over California, but federalizing the National Guard.
Yeah.
And I do think he needs to start arresting Democrat politicians who are aiding and abetting criminal gangs.
We don't need a march to the sea, but he can go in and do
we
some
don't
surgical
want
stuff, and just take care of the illegal.
Well, I think Karen Bass should be arrested at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
If they don't want to say it's treason because it's like kind of on the line. If Tren de Aragua got this cash, then she is doing that. She's facilitating that. But if it's just aiding the illegal immigrants. I'd say sedition. I do believe right now the DOJ shouldn't waste any time. They should absolutely charge. However, I wonder if they're going to wait till after the midterms. So Trump is done 2029, January 20th. This is it for him. He's going to walk out, and that's the end of game. That's end game for him. He's going to, like his first term, this is what all politicians try to do, maximize the powers they have right now so that he gets the full 4 years. So Trump says, play it light for now, do some of these raids. Let's try and win the midterms. After the midterms are over, full bore.
Because if the Democrats get the House again, it's going to be endless impeachments again, I think is what the president suspects, just like it was last time when he lost the House.
So he can take the actions now and then maybe lose the midterms, or he can take little actions now, try and win the midterms, and then go ham.
I think you got to do it now.
I agree.
Like, you got to save lives. You got to help turn this country around. You can't wait.
I think the assumption that you can win the midterms by waiting is wrong.
And I think the advantage that the president has is, I think, even in sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, blue areas, I think your average law enforcement officer is on board.
Yeah.
Right? They're tired of having to fight with their own criminal element, let alone an illegal criminal element. So I'm sure there are some lefty cops, there's leftists everywhere. But I would think that most of your LAPD will be thrilled to know that the president wants to help get rid of their criminal element. And when Karen Bass is like, the LA police are going to blah, 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 like, we're not. Yep. We're actually not.
So I wanted to prompt you guys on something that I hear a lot of Democrat politicians talking about. And so at a lot of these workplace raids, at a lot of these outside of immigration courts where ICE agents are detaining illegal aliens, they're all masked up. Some have, different masks that they're wearing, clearly there to protect their identities. Tom Homan cited something like a 700% increase in violence towards these agents as to why they're wearing their masks. I believe that, obviously, and that there's been a lot of threats towards their families, and there's been literally shootings at these ICE agents, even when they are wearing their masks. This led to people like Rep. Velasquez and Representative Dan Goldman and others introducing different legislation to kind of ban masks on ICE agents. I totally understand why they find it necessary to wear masks, but how do you guys feel about them wearing masks? Because I think part of the narrative here is struggling because it looks sketchy when people with sometimes their badges hidden, sometimes their face is completely covered. I've covered
No masks.
Yeah.
No masks.
Yeah. So what do you make of the administration's defense of ICE agents wearing masks, saying, it's putting them in danger, and that
because
there are different activists who are doxing them, and it is happening. I've seen it.
The arguments, I imagine, functionally, imagine you're trying to recruit as many ICE as possible. They've got this big budget increase. And you say, but you can't wear a mask, so they're going to see your face, they're going to find out who you are, they're going to post you on the internet, and they're going to find your family. They'll I quit.
Yeah, who's doing that?
So the reason I say no masks, though, is because if you can't rally and get the people you need, then you don't deserve to win. It is simple as bringing those people in and giving them a rallying cry and saying, we will not wear masks. We will not hide who we are. We will not hide what we do. We recognize they will try to kill us. They will threaten us. They will threaten everything we love. But the founding fathers sacrificed blood, treasure, and family to create this nation. And by God, we will do the same to save it. And if you've got people who are like, I'm too scared, then you should not be here. But I guarantee someone with the right charisma who's leading these guys is going to say, you don't need the masks. And they're going to say, why not just have them? Let them come. Show the world who these people are when they make these moves, and we will use the might of the U.S. government against the terrorists. And the left is going to do the terrorists. I don't care. They're shooting cops. We voted for this. Trump won. This is not fascism. This is what the American voter asked Trump to do.
Do you remember in like the week leading up to the passage of the big beautiful bill, Democrats were taken to the floor with all the sob stories. I want to tell about Juanita Gomez, who's 9 years old and was born without a head, and she's going to lose her insurance because there were all the sob stories. I haven't heard one sob story about these 14-year-olds who are working on a pot farm. Right? No one has come out and been like, let me tell you the story of, and this is who the Democrats are defending. Right? They're defending the child slave labor. They're defending it.
Why won't the
where is anyone coming out saying like what is the life of a 15-year-old girl who works on a pot farm? Like, what is she doing tonight when she's done working? Where is she sleeping? How is she getting raped?
Why is the media saying slaves? Why aren't the headlines saying slaves?
No advocates. These little girls have no advocates. The cartels have great advocates, but these little girls have no one fighting for them.
I will break it down like this. Many of the migrant workers on these farms are not there by choice. They're adults. It's hard to prove. You could maybe say they've indentured themselves to the cartels by saying, I agree to enter into a contract by which I'll work X amount of time for being smuggled into the United States. I've gone to foreign, I'll just keep it kind of private because the people who are at this restaurant might know, but it was a non-American style of food and their employees appeared to be indentured servants. And they got very mad when I pointed something like this out. That's illegal. You're allowed to do that. Like if you live in, say, like China and you're like, I want passage to the United States, so say, okay, we're gonna have you work a debt off for us. We don't do that in the United States. The issue is that children cannot enter into these contracts. Children cannot agree to be smuggled. That's trafficking. Children who are on a farm doing labor illegally in this country, kids aren't allowed to work on farms like this to the degree that they're having these people. That would then be upgraded from indentured servitude to slavery because they don't have a choice. And so here we are. The question is, you know what I think? You know what I think it is? I think it's because the American liberal thinks slavery is a black man in a field being beaten.
Yes.
They don't realize that slavery affected every level of American society, from grocery stores to government to building houses. In the mind of the liberal, when you talk about slavery, they imagine it's a guy in a field. But there were people who worked a blacksmith, and he had slaves, and the slave would make horseshoes. Nobody was hitting him, but that was not his choice. He did not want to be there, and they were enslaved. I don't know why. You can make all the assumptions. I'll ask you guys in the comments, why won't the media admit these are child slaves?
The left only cares about children when they're dead from mass shootings, so they can use them as political cudgels.
To be fair, the past few they didn't want to talk about at all because of the identity of the shooters.
Yeah, that's true. That's a big conflict for them. Depending on the shooter and who the victims are, they have a tough time deciding on who to victimize.
Well, to be fair, Chicago has a mass shooting every weekend they never talk about.
That's so weird.
At least according to the Googles, 388,000 slaves were taken to North America from Africa. Joe Biden lost how many kids?
300,000-ish.
Right. So Joe Biden was...
Wait. People taken from the U.S. to Africa?
Over 12 million were trafficked out of Africa, but 388,000 were brought directly to North America.
Oh, okay.
Again, according to the Googleses. But so Joe Biden trafficked more than 300,000 children in 4 years. And this was over 200 years. Joe Biden was the largest slave trafficker and sex trafficker in the history of the world.
You know what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
I think it is absolutely fair to say that children who are smuggled here did not make the choice and now having to work off a debt are being forced to do so. I would call that trafficking and slavery. But if we want to play the game the Democrats play about, but they're asylum seekers. Okay, you're right, liberals. These people in their home countries were threatened by gangs and had no choice but to leave. Now, many of them smuggled here are forced to work on farms to pay off those debts. So they were forced to do it, so they're all slaves?
Right.
If you want to argue these people weren't safe at home and had no choice but to flee, and now their only option was die or work on a farm, I'd call that slavery.
Yeah. Totally.
In which case, these people, Trump is liberating slaves.
So he is Lincoln-ish.
We're getting there.
To be fair, that was my legal arguments. I think the child slavery thing is 100% correct.
Yeah.
And I'm not really surprised no one in media is admitting that Trump found child slaves.
No, it's just easier to say, strawberry fields.
Right.
What Congressman said that over the weekend. They're picking up families working on strawberry fields, like when the Poole family goes strawberry picking in spring, right? Like mom and dad and kids and like.
And then Trump's masked guys with skulls are just beating children.
It's a level of evil that is hard to comprehend, and yet we have to pretend to have rational conversations.
It's demonic.
It is. Oh, it's purely demonic. Purely demonic. And Gavin Newsom with his slick back hair defending the cartels trafficking girls on pot farms, who, by the way, donated one of the biggest pot farms that was raided was a donor to his campaign, right?
Newsom? Trump should shut the pot farms down.
So
I'm so sick.
It's just evil.
Of the weakness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who did I have on? We were on the culture war, and I said, this is why I'll never be in government. And I can't remember. We had Dr. Chloe, Dr. Drew, and Naomi Best, and someone asked, why? And I was like, no one would dare let me anywhere near that seat of power.
No.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me when I say, oh, what was that child slave labor on your pot farm? The federal government is federalizing, seizing it, and shutting it down. Done. Not to mention it's illegal federally anyway. Now, I'm not an anti-weed guy. I am not somebody who thinks it should be illegal. I'm more of a regulate, more on the libertarian spectrum when it comes to a lot of drugs. I don't want anybody doing them. I just don't know if having a law that's not being enforced does anything. But that being said, at the bare minimum, it's an illegal drug. Okay, it's the federal government says it's illegal, and they found child slaves. How hard would it be to send one guy with a clipboard and be like, shut your farm down?
Yeah. It's okay to be against a business that has child slaves.
Yes, I don't care what the business is.
We give you permission, Democrats. You are allowed to be opposed to child slavery. But this is why they call Trump derangement syndrome, right? Because if Trump did it, it has to be wrong.
Yeah,
so you start adopting positions that just absolutely make no sense. It's when you have devout pro-Israel Jews Democrats coming out and being like, well, I oppose the Iran strike. It's like, whoa. We can talk about that. But you have 40 years on the record saying you would appreciate this. It's like, but Trump did it, so therefore it's wrong.
Right.
Trump derangement syndrome is so sick that Democrats in California will defend slave labor on a pot farm.
Well, now, when I talk about the escalation and threats of violence, there's a lot of people who have made posts. One guy got, I think, like 10 million views saying, if masked men are kidnapping your family, you have a right to defend yourself. And it's like, in the vaguest of contexts, if you're at home and a guy in a balaclava kicks your door in and grabs your daughter, yes, everyone recognizes that. But when there's duly sworn in law enforcement with an announced raid showing up with police vehicles, and you're like, but they're wearing masks. You have no right to shoot those cops when you know they're engaged in lawful law enforcement activity. But now I'm seeing more doofy liberal types saying the exact same thing. This is the sentiment on the rise on the left, which I believe we will see more and more people ambushing and shooting at ICE.
Yeah.
We saw two groups, July 4th and July 7th. And then a few days later, some guy at one of these riots pulled out what appeared to be a pistol and appeared to be shooting at federal law enforcement.
Yeah, it's going to continue.
I feel like there's been a large increase in violence that's kind of been normalized and just been swept under the table, like that we forget about it after one news cycle happens. So obviously there was the Luigi Mangione stuff. Recently, there was also in Minneapolis, a couple of lawmakers that were shot. Where obviously
that was the Vance Butler guy.
We're obviously coming on the anniversary
in a church.
Of the Trump shooting.
The Idaho guy going after the first responders.
And then multiple assaults or shootings against ICE officers.
Israel embassy thing.
Outside. And that
it's
just
been nonstop.
The next day, it just seems like, oh, yeah. But I don't know if that's just in my head, if we're noticing that more. But it seems as though we spend less time concerned on these acts of violence when they do happen. And I think it is very concerning because I think we're going to see this trend continue.
Well, and then you hear nonsense politicians like Tim Walz say, like, Democrats have to get nastier. It's like, how much nastier do you need to get, right? I mean,
they have to actually take the skin off their face and reveal the lizard.
I mean, it's starting with the Bernie Sanders supporter who shot up the congressional baseball game.
Yeah,
right? Like,
true.
there really isn't a prominent act of political violence that has come from the right. January 6th. I know that's why they always have to go back to January 6th.
Yeah, but not only will they murder you, but everybody on their partisan side will justify it. I think that's one of the big issues too. I feel like back in the day we used to come to a consensus where vigilante justice was bad, but now like, oh, if it supports my political ends, I do support it. And I guess the reason why that's so concerning is because many people have many political beliefs that they hold with deep conviction. But if we let people go down about vigilante justice, we'll end up in a really crazy place. The thing I'm implying, by the way, is there are people right now who are pro-life who believe that there is a Holocaust going on within abortion clinics. What does that make you justify in your beliefs and makes you believe you should be able to do in vigilante justice is endless if you're justifying.
Hopefully you don't want to take someone else's life if you're pro-life, but we should put an end to all those human sacrifice.
If you're just go ahead.
Let's jump to this next story. We have this from Mario Nawfal. Breaking Rep. Khanna. I am demanding the release of the Epstein files. Rep. Khanna has introducing amendment to demand the full release of the Epstein files. Now, this is a Democrat who's doing this. Let's play the tape.
Mr. Speaker, I introduce today an amendment demanding the full release of the Epstein files. The Speaker's Rules Committee should demand a vote tomorrow of every member of Congress. Yes, we should release it, or no, we should not. This is a question of whose side are you on? Are you on the side of protecting the rich and the powerful, who've put their thumb on the scales of government to suck out millions of dollars while working class Americans suffer? Or are you on the side of the people? The Attorney General said on her desk was the Epstein file. And now she's saying, no, 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 nothing to see, don't release it. This is a question of trust. We need to release the Epstein files so we can restore government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And every member of Congress tomorrow should be forced to vote on this amendment.
So here's the conundrum, I suppose. If this does go to a vote, I doubt it. Who do you think votes yes? I don't know that it would be Democrats. Like, this is brilliant by Ro Khanna. Shout out. We do disagree on quite a bit, but he's the best the Democrats have. I want the files released. I don't care if Trump's in them. If Trump's in them, I want them more. How about that? But Rep. Ro Khanna saying this, Democrats are not all going to vote yes on it. Republicans are not going to vote yes on it. So it's not going to go to a floor vote at all. So this is an interesting play that can't be played.
Yeah, and Ro Khanna represents Silicon Valley, and his office is getting a lot of phone calls right now from some pretty rich dudes who are like, "Hey, remember that contribution you asked for me? How about you shut up about the damn Epstein files?" There's a lot of people in Silicon Valley who are probably a little too close to that file who don't want the thing released. So
I want the
Ro
files,
will back down from.
I want
this.
the files released, but I also don't know why anyone should trust what we see when they are released.
So
That's
the issue with all of the Epstein files, though. It really speaks to how no matter what is released, you will never be satisfied unless it really confirms your priors.
I want the government to be turned inside out so we can decide. And this is a step in the right direction.
Ro Khanna's a cynical political clown. He didn't do this during the Biden administration for a reason. It's because he didn't give a shit. He's only cynically using this as a ploy to be the man of the hour.
Yeah.
Mr. Gaines, who do I sign this
he's
check
made
out
it.
to?
Just pull that gentleman off the chair and take the chair. It's all yours. Myron made it.
Yeah, I did.
It was a lightning hold, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, man. It was.
I knew it.
Nuts.
I knew it. I used to work in an
Make this
airport.
dude
That's how
move
I
a
knew.
puppet after being stuck on a plane. Welcome to IRL. Here's a puppet.
Dude, literally, they said, "Oh, lightning hole." I was like, "Wait, there's no lightning. What's going on here?" So,
They got the lights. They flash on top, and that means no ground personnel can go on the ground.
oh yeah, dude, we were there for like 2 hours.
Dang.
Absolutely nuts. Actually, it was the Jews that made me late. No,
Oh yeah.
Myron, I was going to
just
say, who do I write this
They
check
do
out
control
to?
the weather.
psyops that you're doing are
It
crazy.
was a
right
lot
now.
specifically. But we were just talking about Ro Khanna has called for an amendment to be filed and voted on the floor tomorrow in Congress, releasing all the Epstein files.
Good. I mean, that was a huge blunder by the Trump administration, was saying like, "Oh yeah, nothing to see here, guys." Especially when several members of the cabinet were saying like, "Yeah, we're going to release the files." Whether it was Kash Patel, Bongino, J.D. Vance, they'd all said this stuff on podcasts earlier. So it looked really bad for them to just be like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And then even when Pam Bondi, "Oh, it's on my desk," obviously she played it back. She was like, "Oh well, I was referring to the entire file. I was referring to JFK and everything else," which you can get that plausible deniability, but it looked really bad. And then I was listening in on what you guys were saying before with the mayor of LA and the Trender Araguas and everything else. Yeah. The other thing also that could happen, I don't know if they would do this, but since they're labeled a terrorist organization now, you could use the full force of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, and go after them for material support of terrorism. And the reason why that would be good is because when you use the JTTF, you get a dedicated AUSA. You can go ahead and get DOJ Maine involved. You get an enormous amount of resource when it comes to prosecuting these types of cases, because I've done those national security cases before, and when you involve the JTTF, it becomes a way bigger deal.
They should. As for the Epstein files, there's something. I have an interesting thought on this. It's like Ro Khanna. I like Ro Khanna. I disagree, but we came on the show, we had a discussion, and I see where he's coming from. I've made this point with a lot of people on immigration. People will always vote to protect themselves, their friends, and their families. So Ro Khanna, being the child of immigrants, is like, I want to protect immigrants. Me, as someone born American, and I mean, admittedly, my grandmother, my grandmother on my mom's side was an immigrant too, but my family is largely American. So I'm like, I want to maintain the American tradition. So I respect it. That being said, if all the Democrats came out tomorrow and were like, yeah, release it, I'd be like, wait a minute. What are they like? What's their play here? Now, to be fair, okay, right? I'm not going to tell them no, but what is the Democrat motivation if they actually were to vote on it? I don't trust them.
They've got fake files that have all their enemies on it.
Maybe. Yep.
You just
For the
can't trust
Democrats,
it.
it's
Or
just a distraction.
What if Okay, and I know that the liberals are gonna clip this. Okay, let me just start by saying I'm gonna intersplice my sentences. The Epstein files should be released, and if Trump is on them, good, release them even more. But what if Democrats had, and I think Trump should be releasing these files, fake files that Trump, he should be releasing all the files, left behind so that if Trump or whoever came in and all the Epstein files need to be released, they would stumble upon and go, wait a minute, this is all fake. And then it's like, release it. And then the Democrats say, release it. And you're like, that's a clever play.
Well, let's be honest here, right? So, like, as far as like the client list goes, we already know who a lot of his clients were, right? You know, I've done a show with Ryan Dawson. We talked about this. You know, the thing is that, like, you know, the cool, sexy celebs, we already know who they are. There's a lot of billionaires that no one knows about. The real thing that's interesting is people want to know, who do you work for? Which component of Israeli intelligence do you work for? You know, I think the former Prime Minister Naftali came out and said, oh, he didn't work for the Mossad or the Israeli government. But, you know, other people were like Winnie Webb say that he worked for Oman, right? The IDF's component. So we'll see. But I think the thing that's most important, Oman, they're basically, it's like their DIA, Oman.
So, that's the actual organization.
Yeah, it's called Oman. Yeah, no, it starts with an A. A lot of people get, what are you talking about? Yeah, it starts with an A. Yeah, it's like a component
weird,
of their
small country
of their IDF.
We know Epstein was friends with Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister.
Yes, he got caught there a million times.
And Bongino himself said on this show, Middle Eastern intelligence, perhaps. And then everybody laughed when he said Middle
Yeah, we all know which Middle Eastern country that is. Okay, but you know, I think the real thing that people are interested in isn't necessarily like people say the client list. We already know who's going to be on the list. I think the thing people are most interested in is, you know, who he was working for, what information he was collecting, why he was collecting, and how he was going about actually doing all this. And I do think it's important for people to realize that when it comes to Epstein, I've talked about this a bunch, and I really want to kind of aware the audience on this. So I used to, for those that don't know, because I'm like new here, I guess, with some of the people, I was a former special agent with Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. So I had a top secret clearance, and I dealt with high-side stuff and law enforcement stuff. And the thing with Epstein is, obviously, there's a criminal case on the human trafficking side, right, with what he did. And then there's also the high-side stuff about, you know, what he was doing when it comes to intelligence. Now, the FBI is obviously going to have a file on him for the criminal side, but they're also going to have what we call the high side, which is going to have a file on all the classified stuff. It's important to note that the FBI is only going to have stuff pursuant really more to domestic intelligence gathering that he was doing here. But when it comes to foreign intelligence, that's going to be the CIA. Right? So I do think that, you know, we've been beating up Bongino and Pam Bondi and stuff for their blunders. I get it, Kash Patel, valid criticisms. But I do think we need to expand it. If we want everything, we need to bring Tulsi Gabbard in, because she's really going to have everything as a DNI, because all the intelligence components, the IC community, are going to have slivers of all of this stuff that Epstein was doing based on the fact that he was also working with a foreign government. So the CIA is absolutely going to have a file, NSA is going to have a file, DIA is going to have a file, all these guys. So I do think that we don't just need the FBI stuff, we need the CIA stuff and NSA stuff, everything, because since we know this guy worked for foreign intelligence, FBI is not going to have everything.
What do you think the reason is for Trump saying nothing to see here, everyone move along?
You know, controversial take. I think a big part of it is to protect Israel. I think that Israel's in a very...
Is that the controversial part? I feel like that's a less controversial thing.
Well, let me tell you why. I think the reason why is because right now Israel is in a very bad political space when it comes to approval, both internationally and the United States. You know, people are being very critical of the country right now. They're in a very sensitive time where I would say the next 2 years is going to dictate the landscape of the Middle East for a very long time. And, you know, they want to attack Iran again. You know, the ceasefire is BS. They're going to absolutely, you know, do another phase of the conflict because for all intents and purposes, I think the United States and Israel lost this conflict. And I can go into...
Can I ask you, what is what evidence...
Yeah, I think they lost.
What evidence do you have that Jeffrey Epstein worked for Mossad?
Well, I mean, between the former prime minister going to his house as much as he did,
he gave Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, $200 million for research. We don't even know.
Bill Clinton worked closely.
Hold up,
with
Elaad.
Sure, they all did.
Elaad,
yeah.
You can't talk about Epstein without talking about Robert Maxwell, who was working with the Mossad as a part of a huge scandal, the Promise scandal in the 90s.
Didn't Maxwell's father say something about
that's Robert Maxwell. Like
right,
Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was embedded with the Mossad, but also the Soviets, also Eastern European.
Protected their nuclear program. Robert Maxwell protected their nuclear program.
I know, but this isn't. You know, again, you guys are like reaching for strings. So Tucker Carlson's father worked for the CIA.
Yeah, and that's also suspicious.
Yes, and is
okay. Then what's your argument?
My argument is
a second thing was true.
No, my argument is that just because you're the son of somebody, or that you've been seen with
CIA
leaders
is American.
Of a country,
CIA is America.
So Donald Trump was seen with Jeffrey Epstein. So was Bill Clinton.
Donald Trump used to hang out on Robert Maxwell's boat.
So
like, there's
you
a
could
deep
make the
connection.
same argument that you're making for Jeffrey Epstein working for Mossad that he worked for CIA because he
Do
was
you think
seen
Saudi
with-
Arabia makes more sense as the Middle Eastern intelligence agency that he was working with?
So I'm going to pull a Charlie Kirk, and I actually believe that the president is handling this properly. And if there was any,
I'm leaving.
he's actually showing it. I think the real issue here, I think a real lesson people could learn is that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi overpromised and underdelivered. That's the real issue here. And now they're handing it to one another like a hot potato. Pam Bondi brought in all the influencers to make them all look really stupid, and then she said,
Right, yeah, no, I agree that was an out.
Wait, let me finish. And then she
that's
said,
an out.
"Oh, gee whiz, I didn't get enough info. Wait, let me go ask Kash Patel from the FBI for more stuff because she was trying to dump it onto him."
Let me ask for Shannon.
No, I agree that was an L.
let me ask.
I agree that.
Do you think they kept the files and still had them sitting around, knowing Trump was coming in it?
Well, again, I think if we're only going to look at the DOJ and FBI, we're only getting a slice of the pie. I think that this is way bigger, and we need to bring the entire intelligence community in based on the nature of the type of intel he was working.
I don't think Myron Gaines or Shea will ever be satisfied with whatever comes out of these documents.
Whatever. My point, what I'm saying is,
Or we're not going to get him, is my point.
I don't see. I agree with Elaad that they overpromised and underdelivered.
Sure.
Cash he went on Glenn Beck's show and they said, who's got the Epstein's black book? And he says the FBI does. Absolutely.
The FBI director.
The FBI director. And he says it's directly under the control of the FBI director. But the idea that anyone who could be implicated knew Trump was going to be coming in and had months of advance notice and just sat back and did nothing, they had to have been saying, all right, clear it out, get the files, anything incriminating. And then you have an entire administration making promises that they get in there and they go, we got nothing.
So,
You know who's
this
gonna have
answers your
everything?
This answers your question. Why did Khanna introduce this? And this is
Because
why.
no one's going to vote on it.
No.
political
This is
cudgel.
why. Because now we're not talking about illegal immigration. We're not talking about defunding Planned Parenthood. We're not talking about. We're not talking
bad
about
for Democrats.
We're not talking about. No, but it's bad for America. It's bad for our movement.
No,
we're not
no,
talking
no,
about
no.
all the other things. Because all we're talking about is Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. So this is why
I disagree.
Khanna dropped
No
this.
way, no
'Cause
way.
Let's keep talking
The
about Jeffrey
Epstein-
Epstein.
the Epstein-
So all these
no, no.
other battles that where we can fight.
Okay, I get it.
We're not going to
No.
fight them because we're
This-
going to focus on
we get
Jeffrey
it.
Epstein all
I
the
get it.
time. Jeffrey
This
Epstein.
is the best thing that ever happened to Trump.
Jeffrey Epstein.
It's the best thing.
How?
It has turned the noise off of all of the other stories onto a story that can't go anywhere. If there's no files and there's no and it's all like, do we really believe they're sitting on a trove of documents being like, we could release it anytime? Come on, anybody implicated knew Trump was going in, that if he could release it, they would have gotten rid of most of the incriminating stuff at the bare minimum. In Trump's first term, everybody in all these liberals in media made the argument that anytime Donald Trump had bad press on one of his policy decisions, he would tweet something unrelated to policy, some cultural issue. So I'm not saying this is why it's happening, but it may be that Trump, one rumor I heard is that he's using the blackmail to force through his agenda. I don't know if I believe that. I think the likelihood is overpromise, underdeliver. And when they get in, it's like, oh, we actually can't deliver on these promises. But more importantly, Trump raiding farms and sending in, ICE agents to people fighting in the streets. There was like a 20-something-year-old woman who fought an ICE agent in Boston or something like that. Yeah. And now the only thing anyone's talking about is this nebulous story, subject to debate, called a conspiracy theory. The last thing Trump wants is a heavy focus of national unrest on his immigration raids.
So that's why he's doing it.
I do think the story is
I don't know.
important, and we should not be talking about it, because I think if our foundation of this country is comprised of sexual blackmail, which it has been since the dawn of time, obviously not this country. But hold up, but like since Hoover took over FBI, we know the mafia was sexually blackmailing him for being with his gay lover in a New York City hotel. This is what the country's been doing. So if our foundation's comprised of that, it's that foundation's got to be destroyed. I don't care what the repercussions are. I don't care who the people in the periphery of the story are.
Wait. What if the repercussions are, and this is, I'm not saying, I know people are getting mad, I'm not saying it is, I'm saying, how would you feel if Khanna's amendment goes through, all Democrats vote on it, and a couple of Republican defectors vote on it, and they get the documents, they're released, and let's just say it's not incriminating for Trump, but it does destroy the strength of the federal government tremendously, and then Democrats mount a resurgence, and we get a communist takeover in 2 years.
Let God sort it out.
Yeah, it doesn't also.
Even if it means communist takeover.
You don't know. That means you're never going to know. You're never going to know.
Point is,
but it will destabilize.
My point is, I don't think it's likely. I'm not saying it will happen.
Right.
But I'm saying, would you regret the decision should communists take over from
I
turmoil?
lived in New York most of my life. So I'm pretty used to communist takeover.
Right. I guess like
Yes is the
So,
answer to
yeah,
your
I mean, like,
question.
because I'll
you
fight
would
it.
regret it.
Yes.
I don't know if I would
not
regret it because if we
leads to
don't, if we
communism.
do not, just we're already in communism. We're talking about Karen Bass. Look, Karen Bass is funding an invasion in
Donald
California.
Trump is president. We are not.
Like,
we are not.
I had a
communists.
genocidal maniac in New York, Cuomo, and then we have this genocide, this sexual blackmail operation running the country. I'd like to see that come undone.
So
we already have.
I agree.
Mom Donnie, whatever
I
his name is in New
completely
York.
agree.
Like, I don't
Drop
care
him.
what the repercussions are going to be.
This is
Yeah,
why
they got to release it because the people already have very low confidence in the U.S. government, so they need to drop them at this point. Now, here's the thing. I think they need to drop them, but I don't think they are because there's going to be national defense information in there. It's going to not just compromise our national security, but also Israel's. They're in a tumultuous time right now when it comes to getting a hegemony in the Middle East. It's just not going to happen.
Let me add. I agree with you on the Israel thing.
Took them 60 years to give us JFK. Everybody's
think-
dead.
Apparently,
I
they
think-
didn't even give
Okay,
us JFK.
all right. I think it will cause problems for Israel.
Still not out there.
I think it will cause problems for the CIA, the FBI, the entirety of the U.S. intelligence apparatus.
Yep.
And I think there's going to be several other countries involved in this as well that goes beyond just CIA, Mossad, probably MI6.
Sure.
So
All the Five
I
Eyes.
think a strong possibility, too, is Trump's hands are effectively tied. Now, we can make the argument, do it anyway, but it may be that Cash, Dan, Pam, Trump, and Blanche, they get in there, and they've got the UK, all the Commonwealth nations, not just Israel, but you've even got Saudi Arabia, and they're like, you do this, and you're cooked. And Trump's like, what do we do, guys?
Well, not just that. Like, keep in mind, like Patel and Bongino, everyone's so focused on FBI. The people that are going to have the real sauce is going to be the CIA and what Tulsi Gabbard has. Because since this guy was collecting information for a foreign government, the FBI's information is going to be limited, right? And I'll be honest with you guys, because I've worked with the FBI. They're a mediocre intelligence gathering agency, okay? They just are. Because so with the FBI, they have to actually operate within the rules to a degree versus these other intel components don't care, right? So like when the CIA is doing a lot of things that they were doing abroad during the war on terror, the FBI left. They didn't want to be involved in a lot of that stuff because it destroys their ability to do prosecutions. Because when we're doing prosecutions versus collecting information, two completely different things. So if we really want to know what was going on, Tulsi Gabbard's going to have everything. She's the real person that's going to have
You think you
everything.
can trust what's there? Because it's been through so many hands over all these years.
You know, honestly, dude, I don't think we're ever going to get the full transparency
Guys.
just because people are alive, the nature of what he was doing, the national defense of not just that it's NDI, but it's going to affect us. It's going to affect Israel. This is a very turbulent time for Israel where they obviously need as much support. If the info came out at this time, it's like the worst time it could ever come out for Israel. So
I
but
think
do you
one
agree
of-
with MI6 as well?
sure, for sure. I wouldn't be.
I
A
think-
lot of
I
these
think-
agencies work together, so I wouldn't be
The
surprised.
Five Eyes Spy Club?
Of course, yeah.
Because you say Israel, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I agree, but let's make sure we mix in the other people. And I agree, they're probably a large
Sure.
component, but the Five Eyes Spy Club is not.
But they're in the
going
most
on
sensitive political climate right now. Is my point. That's why I said
I
Israel. Israel has the most sensitive. They're in the middle of several wars.
Bro, I think I don't. Now that I got you two here, like I don't see how Israel survives the political climate right now in the United States over the next 10 years. I think their funding is pulled in 10 years, 20 years maybe.
I think it becomes a partisan issue, but I still think the Republican Party will stay pro-Israel at least for the next.
Did you hear Tucker
20
Carlson
years.
at TPUSA?
Yeah, but I think when you see
was there.
actual elected officials, I think there's a disconnect from social media and in real life and how people vote in Congress. I think the bigger issue with the Epstein story here is that if it doesn't confirm your priors, whatever you thought would be happening with this story, then you're not going to think enough stuff is released. So, for example, if Mossad is not implicated, Myron Gaines will not be satisfied. If Donald Trump is not
I don't even
implicated,
think Mossad was the one.
If Donald Trump is not implicated, then the Democrats won't be satisfied. So I think for so many different people, if X or Y or Z person
worried
isn't
about the
included,
kids
then
who
you're
were
not going to think
trafficked.
there is enough.
I'm worried about
no matter
the kids
what.
who were trafficked that people went to prison for. Jeffrey Epstein was in jail in Florida
So allegedly,
for underage stuff. You know, Ghislaine is in jail right now for trafficking underage
sure,
kids.
trafficking allegedly
I'd like to
people
know-
to Jeffrey Epstein and not others.
I mean,
is what is
that's-
happening according to the report.
that's the
But let's
official
just,
story.
can I just, there's a pilot.
Right.
Like, come on, like there's other people involved in this. It's so silly.
Right.
Yeah, there's staff on
Right.
that island. There's staff at his compound in New Mexico. There's lots of people. There are lots of process crimes.
So
where did they all go?
Is Donald Trump implicated here in hiding the ball? Is that
No.
what we're?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, but he does have a long history.
I
with
think
the
that's a
backbone.
convenient out here for somebody who, while he's
If
president.
there was a single sentence they could have leaked about Trump, they'd have leaked it.
Yeah.
They arrested his lawyers. Okay, they arrested his lawyers in multiple states. They were trying as hard as they could.
Trump is very good at timing also. And you mentioned earlier, is he doing a lot of stuff in preparation for the midterms, for the 4 years, right? He may have this in his back pocket. Maybe he does want to pull a couple strings. Maybe he does want to make people dance. Maybe there are a couple senators or governors who are panicking right now that he's kind of waving this because I want X, Y, or Z done, and I'll release the list in 2028.
This is a big,
I trust him.
Big theory. Before the big beautiful bill, everything was Epstein talk. We're working on it. Phase 2 is coming.
Yeah.
Big beautiful bill passes. Nothing to see here, boys. Which the argument is. Trump goes to the speaker and says, get my agenda passed, I don't care how, or Epstein files come out. And the speaker, the organizations behind all of the elections are going, how much damage do we take from this? And they're like, it's going to be massive. And they're like, give Trump his agenda. Then Trump gets it passed and he says, okay, deal. So he's like, the theory is, and I'm not saying it's true, that he's using the blackmail.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. We know that this big, beautiful bill is probably going to be the biggest piece of legislation that he's able to pass before the midterm. So
I mean, $170 billion
deal
for immigration.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why he compiled everything in there at once to get it through, right? So
I mean, this theory does kind of make you think maybe
it defunded Planned Parenthood.
Yes,
there's a lot of stuff in this one big bill. There's a lot of stuff he got done in there.
I could see the theory being possible if his body language wasn't so bad. He didn't get under his skin when reporters asked him about it.
Or he's a good actor.
He's not a good actor. He's got thin skin.
He does, but maybe the reason he got thin skin about it is because in his mind he's thinking, we're going to drop the Epstein thing because they gave me what I want and I'm going to uphold my end of the deal. And so when they ask about it, he's like, I want this to go away because I got my agenda through.
Right.
And I think I also don't think he anticipated that it would create this much backlash from the base as well. Yeah. I don't think he anticipated, because Trump is like one of these guys that likes to be liked. So I think the fact that so many people pushed out, this is a big reason why I think he stamped his feet when it came to bombing Iran too. Like when he said, yeah, we're going to bomb Iran or we're going to, you can't have nuclear weapons. People were like, what the fuck? No new wars. So I think that also made him kind of, he does
Myron,
listen to what the people are saying
that
to a degree. I'm sorry?
That wasn't ever new that he said Iran can't get nuclear weapons. He's been saying that for close to a decade now.
I understand that, but he did campaign on no new wars.
But also that Iran cannot get nuclear weapons.
Yeah, but bombing Iran was definitely taking a risk of starting a war. That's a major escalation.
And we were very lucky to have gotten out of that without.
And here's the thing. Look, controversial take. I think it was an L, and there's a multitude of reasons why I think it was an L. Sure. So the reason why it was an L is because, let's be honest here, the real goal from Israel was regime change. Okay, they didn't accomplish that. They used the lie of they have nuclear weapons to justify regime change. Because if they only cared about the nuclear weapons, why did they have the Mossad in the back lines for literally months, building drones, doing it nice and slowly? Then when they launched Operation Rising Lions, what did they do? A bunch of targeted strikes, not just to kill nuclear scientists, but they also killed a bunch of generals. And they were trying to kill the Ayatollah as well. They just couldn't find them. Then when they did their strikes and everything else like that, and then the U.S. came in and finished the job, and then we did this ceasefire, it was an L. And that's why they're trying to fight again. They're trying to restart the war up again because they want a regime change. And they understand that as long as the regime is there,
it's a crazy interpretation of it.
Well, let me tell you why it's also an L.
I would say it's an L for Israel, but I don't think it's an L for Trump. I think
he's able.
Trump got out of it.
He did. But obviously a lot of his base didn't like that, right? That he bombed them. There was no need. We spent billions of dollars to do it. Right, we spent all this time and resources into doing it. Also, we spent a significant amount of money defending Israel.
We even propagandized.
Israel's spending like 100 to 200 million a day just defending against the missiles from Iran.
We even propagandized the country with a $1 billion film. You guys know this, right? Top Gun Maverick. You think I'm kidding?
I saw that movie.
The movie's about, right?
Yeah.
The movie was literally about bombing the deep underground military bases in Iran.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Many people may be saying, like, how are you kidding? You think they knew? Yes, the bunker busters they use have been in development specifically for
2009.
Specifically for these facilities. So I'm not saying that the U.S. government went to Hollywood and said, make this movie. I'm saying someone doing research on the film said, we're going to make a movie.
So let me tell you why this was an L for all of us. Number one, IAEA, eyes out. The last guy just got kicked out like 2 days ago, right? 2, The regime is stronger now because the people have galvanized behind the government. The people that were critical of the theocracy before, now they're like, you know what? Israel attacked us. We're united. The Reformist Party, the Conservative Party, they used to be at ends. One party wanted to go ahead and diplomacy with the United States. The other said, no, we can't trust the West. Now they finally said, you know what? Fuck Israel. We're going to go ahead and strike back.
But Myron, I was told by many pro-Israel individuals that the people of Iran support Israel and hate their government and are happy to be bombed.
That's a lie. Yeah.
They shared a video of them dancing in the tunnels.
Dude, like
video.
literally all the people that were like critical of the theocracy and critical of the Ayatollah and were like, yo, what the hell's going on here? Our government sucks. When Israel attacked them, they united the country. So that was another big L. And then when they had these funerals for the generals that died, which one of them they thought they killed, but they really didn't, thousands of people were showing up. So now people are saying, fuck America and fuck Israel. We survived. We won. They look at it as a W because they got attacked by both the United States and Israel. They exposed all their cards, exposing their Mossad agents, and they still didn't decapitate the regime, and they're still in power. So now our eyes with the IAEA is out. The country is galvanized behind the government. Ayatollah has more power than ever before. And on top of that, we've just given them an excuse to work harder towards a nuclear bomb. Now they're 1,000% going to get a nuclear bomb because we pulled out of the nuclear deal that we had, which was a fantastic deal, probably the only good thing that Obama did when he was in office. And we don't have transparency with what they're doing. So now they're going to get a nuclear bomb, and we're going to end up in a situation like North Korea where they're going to get the nuclear bomb to ensure that we don't fuck with them anymore.
Can I respond with some counter spin? It's actually very interesting because I did think Israel took the biggest L on October 7th. And since then, I think they've been taking very big W's. And the reason why I say that is because, if anything, Israel was able to defang Iran and their proxies since October 7th. So, for example, Gaza...
Patriot attack was great.
If they're almost complete... Hamas was almost completely decimated. Israel was even able to assassinate Ismail Haniyeh, the leader, the political leader of Hamas in Iran, proving to Iran that, no leader there is safe. Then obviously you mentioned the Beeper attack. Hezbollah didn't bother coming to the defense of Iran. Not to mention that Israel, we don't like to talk about it, was involved with the overthrowing of Assad, which was Iran's major ally in the region. And then when it did come to the 12-day war, Israel had complete air superiority, and our military weapons were proven to be much more capable than the Iranians. So as of now, I think Israel has decimated all of the Iranian proxies in the region, actually doing what I think is America's dirty work. So as far as like military position, it's hard to get an exact gauge of what's going on in Iran, but as far as the military assets and, their proxies go, I think it's really hard to argue that you're not doing anything but spin saying Israel's the one who took an L. I mean, if anything, Israel even got the United States to join their attack on Iran, which again I think would be a huge W. Netanyahu has been talking about the Americans joining in on an attack against this nuclear facility for so long, so I can't see this as anything but
let me just say this. If it was,
I got to respond to that.
If it was the previous administration, if it was the Democrat administration, we'd have boots on the ground in Iran.
I don't think Kamala Harris would have even struck Iran if she was elected president, actually.
Come on, are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. You said it yourself. You saw the direction that the Democrats are going on with Israel. You think she would back Israel and striking 100%. Iran? I think that would lead to a coup in the party as a result of her actions.
I've argued before that the Democrats, it's not about what they're doing on the surface, trying to court their Democrat base. The machine is supporting the machine. The best opportunity the Israel critical group has is Donald Trump, who is concerned about pissing off his base. Democrats are like, you're all chickens as far as I care. We do what we want.
Yeah, I don't. I think most Zionists also believe that the Democrats don't have Israel's back and that this was a once-in-a-lifetime presidential action by Donald Trump, and Iran's more vulnerable than they've ever been. But Myron, I want to hear
but the reason why it's an L is because you didn't get what you really wanted. So the Israeli government lied when they said, we just want them to stop with their nuclear weapons. That's not what it was. It was about regime change. You guys couldn't do it. Well, and not only did you not...
like you saying you guys.
Yeah, well, because he kept saying Israel, he kept saying we. So
well, I'm talking about the West, the United States and the allies.
Okay, well,
maybe when you say we
lost for spending a bunch of money in this situation to help defend you guys, but the real problem is that we didn't effectuate or Israel.
We were attacking you guys in the Middle East, huh, Abdul?
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm saying you were saying they were defending us. They were attacking you in the Middle East, because I'm Israel and you're Iran here.
I'm not Iranian.
Well,
that's fine.
You could pass as one. I mean, Myron Gaines, is that even your real name? I know Jews like to
come
use
on.
stage
Ad
names.
hominems.
Now you're not even talking about the subject.
No, but you know, John Stewart turned
come
into
on.
John Leibowitz.
No problem.
Are you really
So-
Myron, or why do you use a stage name?
Are you going to argue?
My name
the
is
point,
Mordecai.
or are you just
Anyway.
No, it's not.
So,
What is it actually?
It's Mordecai. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here as you just changed the subject to insult the guy instead of actually.
He was the one who said you as Israel. So I was
said we.
defending against.
Yeah, you did
I was
say we
talking
when you
about
were-
I was talking about us striking Iran as the United States. We hit their nuclear
And
facilities.
that's a fine clarification. You don't got to insult him after he says
Yeah,
that.
I mean, the way it came, I've heard you said we multiple times after Israel, but that's fine. If you want to, that's fine. The point I'm trying to make is that the regime change was the goal. Now the Israeli government is going to lie and say, oh, no, we just want to go after nuclear weapons. It wasn't about the nuclear weapons. That was just a pretense to try to effectuate the regime change. And they activated multiple Mossad assets in there. They did a whole bunch of airstrikes. Then they had the United States come in and do the coup de grace, and they still couldn't effectuate the regime change. And the regime is still in power. They're more resolved now than ever before. They're united before. That fractured government that people used to, rely on, saying like, yes, we could go ahead and get an uprising. It didn't work. Right? They were hoping that the Blokes would go ahead and uprise with the government. It didn't work. Now they're behind the government even more so. And now they got the IAEA out, who was giving information to the Israeli intelligence apparatus. They're gone. So now they're 100% going to get a nuclear weapon.
So
Here's the
if
other thing,
them
too,
staying
also.
in power is the win? Is that it? Just staying in power?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a
absolutely
consolation prize.
And the
No.
reason why that's a win is because Israel's goal was to get them out of power.
Okay, and what's
That's been
Iran's-
Israel's goal
what's
for
Iran's
100 years.
goal? Wait, what's
They
Iran's
just
goal
used a
in the
nuclear
area?
weapon.
Okay, sorry, guys.
They just used a nuclear capability
let me
as a pretense
Right.
to try to effectuate the regime change.
So let me ask
The
this
regime change
question.
is the goal.
The IAEA is out. So, I mean, that is a loss.
Huge, especially for Israel.
We were tracking what they were working on. It's how we were collecting intelligence, and now we're not going to be able to. I mean, that's not a good thing for us, right?
And here's the other thing, too, I want to say.
I think the IAEA was a feckless organization and not effective in doing what they were set up to do anyway. I think they had hidden nuclear facilities that we actually bombed that the IAEA had no access to. So if anything, to me, the IAEA is a rubber stamp for Iran.
Well, here's the other thing, too, when it comes to hidden nuclear facilities. We know about the three main ones. I guarantee you guys that there's probably other clandestine nuclear operations in Iran that we don't know about. And we know that roughly 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium was probably moved out of Fordo prior to the bombing. So however we want to slice it, right? Let's go with the White House commentary. 1 to 2 years, right, that we've pushed back the nuclear program. Well, now they have the capability. They've already mastered the cycle. They can go ahead and enrich uranium at a high level. Now all their scientists are gone. They're going to go ahead and get a nuclear bomb, and now they have even more resolve to do so. So I look at it like the reason why this was an L is because the Israeli government will lie and say, oh, we want to go ahead and just get rid of their nuclear program. No, it's about regime change, and they could not effectuate the regime change.
I think that's an extremely
wait,
low
guys.
bar,
We-
just
we-
generally
we-
to
we-
be considered
what's
a
the low
win.
bar?
So we hit
Stay in
that point.
power.
What's the low bar?
Is a win. Staying in power is a low bar.
Oh,
It's
last
on
thing
the
I want
third,
to
it's
say.
on
I
the
didn't get to say
third
this.
time we've already mentioned regime change, so let's move on.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say is that the other thing also with the ceasefire is Israel held a lot of this information back, but they were actually getting hit pretty hard by the Iranian missiles, despite the fact that they had U.S., British, Jordanian help, etc. The Iranian ballistic missile program was extremely competent. Hell, I think even Ben Gvir had admitted, yeah, we got hit pretty hard. A couple of their strategic sites got hit. A Mossad base got hit. Oman base got hit. Now, there was a law in the books, though, where Israeli media would get in trouble for reporting this or showing the damage. But now you look, Israeli media is even admitting that they got hit pretty hard with the Israeli missiles. Hell, even Trump himself said on the last day of the bombing that Iran hit them hard. So the reality is that Israel is a glass cannon that can't even properly defend itself. Yes, it can attack, but it can't defend itself without U.S. aid. So this is why I look at it overall. This was an L for all of us.
So
and we shouldn't have gotten involved.
We're going to go to chats in a second, but I do want to just highlight this because we're getting crazy reports. They've been coming in earlier in the night about major flooding in New Jersey. So again, with all the flooding we've been seeing, yeah, right. Like Texas has been getting hit again. I think even recently, like they're saying more is coming. And
that's probably why they delayed me.
Georgia. Oh, this is the storm, dude.
This is why. Yeah.
Bro, I pulled up the weather radar, Florida and the D.C. area. It's like the worst possible time for you
They
to
warned
fly
me
out.
yesterday when I was going to check in. So yeah. Surprised.
We've had, I think we're saying like we've got close to double the rain we normally get. Yeah. It was storming again today. It's nuts. The groundwater level is insanely high. And we got this little creek nearby that only in the springtime does water actually flow. It's like a river right now. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. We drive past and it's flowing bigger and it's leaking onto the street because basically the street is a bridge over the creek and the creek just flows down. In the summer and fall and winter, there's nothing. In the spring, when the snow melts, you get a little creek. We go there and it's going so much it's going over the road. Is how crazy it's been. So, but we're gonna go to your chats, my friends. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know, literally everyone. We're going to have that uncensored call-in show coming up at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. That'll be at 10. But for now, we will read your chats and Rumble rants, so get them in while you can. Let's go. All right. Shane H. Wilder says, since the Autopen for Biden's pardons was approved by an assistant, so wouldn't that mean the assistant committed felony forgery and the pardons are null and void? I mean, if I was in office, I'd be like, charge him. But, you know, all these people are trying to play politics and they're trying to cut deals and they're going, and you know what they're going to say to me? They're going to say, Tim, you're so naive. You don't waste leverage. They're going to say, if a dude committed a crime, you bring the DOJ in and say, here's the list of crimes you're going to be charged with, unless. And that's probably the game of politics. So that's why nobody gets charged. And we're like, why would anyone get in trouble? Next thing you know, some crackpot Democrat comes out and says, you know, I actually don't think Trump's all that bad. You know, I was concerned about the Epstein thing. And then when they said he wasn't going to release it, I was like, oh, thank God. All right, what do we got? Evan for US says, impeach and investigate Joe Biden, investigate his staff. Indeed.
Yep.
The Quiet Part Pod says, fact checked him. There are 86,400 seconds in a day.
Isn't that what I said? Like 86? I thought I was close to that number.
It sounded right to me.
Yeah, I was close. I mean, I wasn't 100% accurate, but I wasn't. Yeah. Okay. Thank
Trust
you.
the science.
I like precision, and precision is important.
Blazalot says, perhaps Trump's response to the Epstein files was to get Democrats to care to release the Epstein files. One of those Trump cures cancer, we like cancer now things. It would be really funny if Trump was like, the only way they'll get on board with voting to release the documents is if we claim we're not gonna.
Yeah.
And now they're like, you better. It's like, oh, here we go. I guess.
All right, you all asked for it. Here's the documents.
Elaine saying that she would testify?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And they're saying no, they won't let her.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
All right.
It's funny she's still alive, huh?
Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't want anyone
Yeah.
to die.
Yeah, I think her dying would have been like, okay, come on now. Like it's like,
Her dad died mysteriously.
yeah.
Mythos says,
did.
Tim, the Barbary pirates were direct employees for the Ottoman Empire. Look up the story of Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon. Of course, we know this. This is why we talk about privateers and letters of marque and corsairs all the time. That is, various empires and kings and queens and governments, they commission privateers. These are people that on the surface claim to not be directly involved or taking orders, but they are given clearance and signed off on by their government. So that was the point I was making about Tren de Aragua is a gang, not Venezuela. But Trump's argument is they're signed off on. Effectively, these people are they're serving as privateers for foreign governments. That would be treason to aid and abet those individuals that are coming here to cause us harm.
Tim, I'm heading out.
All right, man.
See y'all. Gotta go do my show now. 10 o'clock tonight, Inverted World Live. We're gonna talk about UFOs and F-16s crashing into them.
I heard you had rave reviews for last Tuesday's episode.
Last Tuesday, I had a sergeant from the Fourth Reich who's been below Antarctica, where there's an 8 million population.
Fourth?
The Fourth. They're cool Jews, so you should get in touch.
I was unfamiliar there was another.
Yeah, no, he's very nice. That was
can I
Sergeant Peyton.
What if there are 8 million people underground?
Well, there was Base 211 that the Nazis went and hooked up in 1939, and there was the Operation High Jump where there might have been a battle.
Wasn't there like some kid who took a plane and flew?
Recently, yeah. They arrested him.
Well, yep.
Can't go there unless you have special permission because they're hiding the ice wall and the Nazis. I'll see you guys later.
Or it's the treaties, but you know. All right, man.
Later. Thank you.
See ya.
Cheers.
Let's grab some more and see what we got going on. TPH says, Tim, most podcasts open with music before the show starts. Why not play some Phil songs? Yeah, but everybody does like a, it's like a light 8-bit song of some sort. Yeah, what is it? What do you call it?
Like
trip hop.
Chill hop.
Yeah.
Beats to study and
Yeah, beats to study too. Lo-fi type.
Lo-fi beats to study too. T. Boyd says, Tim, all these politicians swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and laws. They are breaking their oath and committing treason.
I don't think these people take that oath very seriously.
Yeah. They're just saying things. All right, what do we got? Robbie Sir says, I think Epstein could have trafficked adult, high-paid hookers and kids. I have a feeling they weren't all kids, so you could be a customer and not a PDF file. I think
he did both. Yeah, he
right.
Wexner, his backer, owned Victoria's Secret, so he definitely had. Well, that's how he got people involved in the first place. The way the scheme would work is he'd go there with Ghislaine Maxwell. She knew all these people from talking about saving the ocean that were powerful, and he'd bring these girls to these parties, these hot girls, and people were like, "Oh, who's this guy? We're bringing all these women," and that's how he kind of got known, was by bringing all the hot girls to the party.
Yep.
that were of age. And then you show up at his house. Next thing you know, there's 15-year-olds there.
Well, the argument is that there would be like a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old, and they would lie and tell you, oh, she's 18, you're good.
Yep.
Then film you and then be like, she's not, we tricked you, and now we've got the proof and we'll destroy her
So
life.
the way the scheme worked, like in the beginning, because I went through his old case, his state case from like 05, 06, 07, and he basically had a bunch of girls from like the local private school working for him, giving massages or whatever. So after he built he met these people in New York or at these parties, they'd go to his house in West Palm, and he already had like a network of like 10 to 15 underage high school girls that looked of age, and they would come in and do the massages or whatever, and he'd be paying them $400 or $500 a pop. And then he'd be like, you have any friends that can do this? And they're like, okay, because back then in 07, 08, $500, $600, high school kid, quite a bit of money. And then that's how he would also get like the young girls recruited.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got here? A free thinking dog says, such a load of horse-ish. Obama made the Iran nuclear deal, and they started violating it from day one. They refused inspections and restricted any inspection that did happen. They are building a nuke. I think they're building a nuke. I think the argument is sound that when NATO basically went in and killed Gaddafi, the message sent to the world is, if you can't defend yourself, we're coming for you.
Yeah, and literally, like, all we've done is like increase the resolve to get nuclear weapons. And then Trump pulling out of the nuclear deal was the dumbest thing we could have ever done. But he did that with enormous pressure from the Zionist lobby and Mike Pompeo.
He ran on doing that.
Well, that was like I said. Well, again,
he ran on pulling out of the Iran deal. That was like one of the big things that he started off attacking
But
Obama
I
for
think that
before
was
all the pressure of him in office.
Yeah, but that
whatnot.
was
Like,
again,
that was his platform.
That was a major mistake. And then again, the thing with Trump is,
But it's like nobody's getting tricked here. I think like you're implying that we're getting tricked and he's doing things that he said he wouldn't do. But like if you were following Trump for a long time, I don't know if you have been, he's been crystal clear on a lot of these issues. So again, when he started running, he was complaining about how bad of a deal Obama got us into.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, it was a good deal. We wouldn't have had the problems that we're having. But again, from enormous pressure from the Zionist lobby, that is why he said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to pull out the nuclear deal. And then when he came in, and then Mike Pompeo, who's a very trusted advisor to him, also owned by the Zionist lobby, went ahead and put the IRGC on the terrorist watch list in 2019, pulled out of the nuclear deal, sanctioned them to hell. Like, of course, that's going to make them say, you know what? We can't even protect ourselves or fund ourselves. We're going to go ahead and get a nuclear weapon. Like, really bad foreign policy is what pushed them to do that. Whereas we could have had diplomacy. But it's always, we're doing this because of Israel. Because Israel wants to be the hegemony in the Middle East. And Iran's the only power that stands against that.
All right, let's grab some more. We've got Waffle Sensei says, any random intern could use Autopen with Biden's name, and the White House would never say that it wasn't the president because of optics. Agreed. Mm-hmm. Also, I'm checking the top fans thing. Let's see what's changed. Is it going to pop up? It's like freezing on me. YouTube rolled out this new feature where you can, it crashed. You can look at your top fans. Are you seeing this in the chat? There's like a little crown.
Keep up.
Let's see.
Yeah. I noticed
look
that.
At this. I can't see the full name because how do I even? It won't show. It says Castle with 2,075 experience. There's like a ranking list of the top engaged chats. I mean, that's cool.
Maybe if you reframe it a little bit, you'll be able to see it. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care that much. I don't think it does anything. You know what I mean?
I don't think what they did with the Autopen was just for the optics. I think it goes both ways. I think even if Biden found out what was happening, they would have said, Mr. President, do you really want us to go to the press and say you didn't know this was being done? So why don't you just be quiet?
That's exactly what happened.
So optics in every direction.
Yep. All right. Cristiano K says, Timmy, please tell me you've seen the clip of Trump celebrating with the Chelsea Football Club instead of leaving the winner's podium like he was supposed to. Legend. I did. It was hilarious. And like these liberals are like, oh, Trump's so dumb. And I'm like, no, Trump can do whatever he wants. Like,
you said Trump likes to be liked, and he loves things like that.
Yeah.
Winning ceremonies, UFC fights, giving people a belt, a trophy. He loves those moments.
The Nobel Peace Prize, which is hilarious that Netanyahu named him for, said, I nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize.
There's no way in hell Trump would have left that podium with
That's
the
like a
winners there. And
that's like a pedo owning a daycare. Makes zero sense, man. Makes zero
all right.
sense.
Let's go to Missy with a K. Says, Tim, you promote the Discord and how neat it is. Full of cool people and content creators like Joey Cannoli from Outworld, Tyler from Tyler Today News. It'd be neat if those people were given a spotlight on your show. That was always the plan, to have our Discord members periodically joining us. So, guys, what you want to do is go to timcast.com, click Join Us, Join the Discord server. It's a community of tens of thousands of people. They're all hanging out. Maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you want to eat right. Maybe you want to write a comic. Maybe you want to write a song, play video games. There's video game servers. Everybody's hanging out. Community is the most important thing. I talk about this all the time, especially with the 4th of July. How I said I went to my hometown and nobody was outside because everyone's online looking at pictures of cats and arguing with strangers. At least if you're going to be online, spend it with a community of friends that you can play games with, talk with, and, meet space is better, but this is a good start. And, of course, DC Comedy Loft members get reserved preferred seating. That's right. If you're a member, the tickets are free. You just got to sign up, first come, first serve. So those are available on timcast.com if you are a member. Make sure you grab them now while you can. And tickets are going quick. We got some big names lining up. August 2nd is Michael Malice and Angry Cops debating police. That's going to be hilarious. I'm super excited for these shows because DC Comedy Loft also has chicken wings, among other things on the menu, but I'm just going to order like 50 wings and sit there eating them the whole time. I'm not literally, but, wings are delicious. All right. Large says, NatGuard set up a dragnet block by block. Let's go. All right, we'll grab some more. MAGA Millennial says, Bass wants to get arrested. The left loves martyrs.
There's truth to that, yeah.
Elliot says, I've talked to a lot of my friends, neighbors, and coworkers about the Epstein files. 90% of them had to be reminded who he was. I agree. The issue is good for Trump that everyone's debating this stuff. I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but if the narrative is Trump raiding immigrants and the left can keep that in the news, they'll rally people to come riot and protest. If Trump can deflect in any meaningful way, then the narrative becomes something nebulous. Like, where are you going to go? Are you going to go like stand in front of the FBI building, the new one, and be like, we want Epstein, and no one's going to care?
Yeah, and they've been running with, like, CNN has been like beating Trump up about these Epstein files the whole time, which is, I guess, kind of good because it takes eyes off the immigration stuff, which actually does create a lot of the turmoil for the administration. So I could see it as a potential media strategy as well, but yeah.
Yep. All right, what do we got? Thinker for Life says, so the Dems will push for good actions, such as releasing the Epstein list, if Trump merely postures he's not in the mood for it. Now all we got to do is have Trump do an about face on something big. Yeah. Trump comes out and says, okay, fine, you've convinced me, here are the files. But I don't think he needs the support to do it anyway. He could just put it out.
Oh.
You just do it. I do think there's an interesting argument. I was talking to Kyle Seraphin today, and his argument is kind of like, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'll just give you the general theme, the general theory. The Epstein was bad. He was doing really bad things. It's not nearly as big as people think it is because it was overhyped by everybody for years. And so they basically get in and look at the files and they're like, yeah, it's bad. And it does implicate like a handful of people, but it's not like this massive end of the world government destroying release. So the general argument is overpromise, underperform, essentially. Not that there's nothing there, but that whatever they have wouldn't satisfy, and people would think
I actually agree with that.
I think it was a cover up no matter what.
I don't think it's going to be like that huge. I think the thing that people really want is to know who was working for, how was collecting information. The mode and methodology is really what people want, because we already know who's kind of on the list.
But the challenge is, you said you know what people want. Yeah, but which people want this? Like, the people who want the information are politicos, deeply entrenched in the political space.
Yes.
And
the average American doesn't care.
You know what people want, but we don't know what the truth is what the issue is. Do you understand?
I do think that people have an idea of but again, it's the politicos, like you said. The average American's not going to even know. The average American doesn't even know what Mossad is, dude.
Cernovich, Mike Cernovich actually got this whole thing kicked off with his initial lawsuit, and he thinks it's not Mossad because they let you say it. And, there were people's names you could not say during the Trump impeachment that if you did on any platform, they would instantly just delete your content.
And I do think it's important, and I said this yesterday on my stream, that people understand that, like, when we say like Epstein was an asset, intel asset, that doesn't necessarily mean he was like a guy that clocked into work every day and was getting paid a salary. You can be an asset simply by having a handler saying, hey, look, this guy who I know you have some interest in is going to be at this place at this time. Bam. That's enough. You're basically like a source and or someone. And the thing is with sources, because I've dealt with this before, like when I was on the job, informants a lot of times have multiple agencies they might work for. This kind of adds more credence to what you were saying, where it could be MI5, whatever. I know that they had said that he had a Saudi Arabian passport. So I wouldn't be surprised if people like him, what they do is to protect themselves is they have information on a whole bunch of different people, and they feed it to whoever they need to keep themselves protected. So this is why he's collecting dirt on both people on the right and on the left.
All right. Kick the Ball says, indentured servitude is illegal under federal law. It's a form of slavery. The Trafficking Victims Protection Act enacted in 2000. Agreed. That's what I was saying. Any adult who came here with a coyote or a cartel or whatever, and they said, you've got to work to pay off this debt, they are slaves. They're enslaved. And so Democrats, once again, pro-slavery, I guess. Jenny Vet says, Tim, my first child was born today, a beautiful boy. I was hoping to get a Phil Metal yell. Maybe next time. Love you guys. Congratulations.
That's great.
There was a great post where, I mean, it was kind of silly. There was like this dude on a private jet, and he was like 42, big crypto portfolio. Guess where I'm taking my jet to? And I think it was Jason Howerton was just like, he was like, I was hanging out with my kids today. There's nothing more valuable or whatever. And I'm like, you don't need to rag on a guy just because he's on a jet and he's excited and he's having a good time. However, to be fair, I went Topgolf with my wife, and I held my daughter while we cheered for my wife as she swung, and there's nothing more valuable than that. Like, there's nothing I could buy that is better than that.
Look at Tim becoming a big mush. I love it.
And a dad.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying? Yup. And all the guys out there who have kids are going like, oh, I know it. And everyone says, well, cherish it now because it goes quick. You know, a couple of years, she'll be walking around doing her own thing. You know what I mean? But for now, you know, I get to hold the baby while she waves at mom, and mom is playing golf. And it's fun. There's nothing more valuable than that. That's why I feel really bad. Because I, you know, talking about like all the dating stuff.
Yep.
I was like, you know, the way I see my wife holding my daughter, and like the joy she has, it is it is euphoria beyond euphoria to be like to see like I don't feel nearly as much as whatever my wife must be feeling holding that baby, and I love my daughter. But women have a special, powerful bond. And I'm like, the idea that society told women not to experience this is criminal.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
Terrifying.
Dude, feminism, I've said it before, bro. It's literally probably one of the worst things we could have ever experienced humanity-wise. And the problem with feminism, it's like the Trojan horse to all the other progressive problems.
Yeah. I can't go anywhere with my baby without women running up and going, ooh, and then like my wife is giggling, and they're like, how old is she? Oh my God. We went to a diner over the weekend, and all the servers ran over to come look at the new baby. And I'm like, it's because babies are awesome.
Yeah.
And there's this, you know what it is? We don't have a lot of time to get into all the feminism stuff, but we talked about it before. Who's the most likely to end up working as a writer? Women are more likely to get jobs in journalism. Yep. And if a woman is working, she's less likely to have a family. Yep. So you're getting this opinion skewed towards working women, releasing all the media to other women, telling them work is good.
Yeah. And I've said it before, like they enable bad behavior. Like with women, it's like if you're fat or annoying, like no one tells you you're fat and you're annoying. It's like you're perfect and you're a queen and you deserve the world. It's like, I mean,
did you see the
crazy,
thing
dude,
where they told the women to line up based on their own attractiveness?
Oh, yes.
And then like the fat chick was number 2.
Yeah.
And then she ended up in the back.
Yeah.
And it was just like, they were actually saying like, you're so beautiful. Yeah, you're.
It's terrible, bro.
What?
It's like with men, right? Like we kind of understand meritocracy and where we stand, like, and we'll make fun of each other. Like women will not do that. Like they don't hold each other accountable at all. This is why they'll be fat and still be delusional. It's crazy, man.
All right. We got Elliot's 8069 says, Tim is absolutely correct. There is no evidence anymore. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, why would there be? Like, if you knew Trump was going to get in and expose you and his people had been screaming it, wouldn't you be like, Biden, get rid of it now?
They had 4 years to, if there was anything, it would have.
Let's say this. Hypothetical scenario. The U.S., the Five Eyes spies, totally not involved in anything Epstein was doing. Epstein had all this blackmail. And the Biden administration would not be in any way implicated by it at all. They knew other people would be. It could be as simple as them saying, we don't want Trump to be able to blackmail people, so get rid of it. Like, even in the, like...
Oh, I see what you're saying. The prime administration.
The left is making the argument when I said I think Democrats destroyed it. They're like, Tim won't admit that Trump is on it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he might be. I don't know. I doubt it because the Democrats would have released it.
Yeah.
But Democrats, if they're implicated by it, or if Trump could wield it as a weapon, don't want him to have it. Either way, they have reason to get rid of that evidence.
Well, that's why I don't think whatever comes out is even the fullness of what comes out. We can't even get full COVID studies.
I
mean, like there's a lot of stuff. The whole intelligence community exists for the guardian of intelligence. They're not going to release what they don't want to release. We can't get the truth of gain of function research.
Here's what I don't get though,
and that was just a couple years ago.
The Trump admin has carte blanche right now to go after literally anybody he wants.
They have to play it.
Trump effectively has the death note. He could create a list and just put his enemies on it and be like, here's the Epstein list, and drop it on the table. And then people are going to say, no, look, if the Trump admin issued an unsigned, undated memo saying this is the Epstein list, and it was literally just a list of Trump's enemies, people would be like, this is it, this proves it. Like, he could do it.
When was the Trump raid on Mar-a-Lago?
It was
all like
2 or 3 years ago in the summer.
Yeah.
It was yeah, I think it was like
August of 2022.
Yeah.
So, all right. So at this point in the Biden administration, that hadn't happened yet. 6 months into the Biden administration, but the J6 hearings had already started. Right. So if Trump wanted to be as vindictive, my point is, if he wanted to be as vindictive as the Biden administration was, what had Biden done by now? 6 months in.
Oh, I see your perspective.
Who had been arrested?
Right.
Peter Navarro was already shackled and dragged out of Reagan Airport by now.
This is how I know.
Steve Bannon was in jail by now.
Right. This is how I know.
We do have the Brennan investigation and Comey.
Sure. And those are good things, but this is how I know the Trump admin's not evil.
No.
Trump could literally just be like, give me a list of 50 names that we don't like between business, politicos, activists. I don't know, give me 100 names. And then we'll just release this as our formalized DOJ official statement of the names we believe were involved. And then they can sue. Good luck. Like, Trump could do that. Like, the amount of power Trump has in just naming anybody without evidence doesn't even matter if he gives evidence or not.
I mean, you could definitely, when you guys spin it like that, I mean, yeah, you could have absolutely, went on retribution. Because the thing is, I've even said it, like, they tried to destroy him. I covered all of his criminal cases extensively, and the one that really had me the most worried that I think would have jammed them up was the classified document case, actually.
Yeah.
Because people were saying, oh yeah, it's classified, he could declassify it. Dude, it's NDI, National Defense Information. You're cooked. Like, it doesn't matter what the classification is.
We're going to go to the uncensored portion of the show at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. So smash the like button, share the show.
My favorite part.
Join us over there, indeed. And if you want to call in, join our Discord server. Members of the Discord get to call in and talk to us on the show. At the DC Comedy Loft, we got Matan, Gavin McInnes joining me and Alex Stein to talk about whether or not Trump is still winning. A big liberal guest has expressed interest, and we're working out the details, trying real hard to get him. And I think once we announce who the guest is going to be, it's going to sell out instantly, not because people want to go see the liberal, they want to see the liberal debate a conservative. And I think people are going to, if we can pull this off. But that being said, at these events, we've got 3 coming up at the DC Comedy Loft. You in the audience, regular ticket holder, can come up and join the debate. We're gonna periodically be calling people to come up and actually debate on stage with us. So you definitely want to be there. It's going to be weird. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Dan, do you want to shout anything out?
No, great to be with you. Daniel Turner, Power of the Future, Daniel Turner PTF on Twitter. And if you want to follow the premier sheep farm of Virginia, Bristol Farm, Virginia, if you want to see the most beautiful sheep in all of America, go check out our sheep farm.
Right on.
Myron Gaines X everywhere. X, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, everywhere. Stream every day, Monday through Friday and Sundays, 5 p.m. The Debrief.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Elaad Eliyahu. You could find my White House reporting, or recently it's been covering immigration raids. You can find my stuff on Twitter and Instagram at Elaad Eliyahu. Thanks for tuning in.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out.